High school wrestling in Newport news. Greg Picaveras, Nate Milton, glad you're with us right here. And Nate, when you talk about these two teams, should be an excellent showcase tonight between Heritage, Denby, and Menchville.
Exactly, my friend. It's great to be here. First event of the winter season, and things are going to heat up tonight as we got a triple threat match, if you will, with Menchville, with Denby, and, of course, with the Heritage Hurricanes.
And, of course, Randall Stowe will be our official.
Randall Stowe's going to be our official. He's going to be handing out gifts to these young men out here on the mat tonight. But it should be an interesting match because, you know, we're talking about preparation. We're talking about what goes into getting to this point, and we're going to see what the coaches have instilled in their teams and if these young men can come out and execute.
All right. Menchville's the home team overall for the trifecta. And, of course, first off, we are going to see, respectively, Heritage versus Denby. Sonny Dirth is always with us, and Sonny has been a guest of mine on radio and TV since 1988. Happy New Year to you, Sonny.
Happy New Year to you guys as well.
Sonny will join us periodically throughout the telecast, as will Tony White, the head coach of Warwick's wrestling team, who also will be in our February edition of Sports Highlights.
Absolutely. And, you know, you talk about the great tradition of wrestling here on the peninsula, and it's something that a lot of times gets overlooked. So it's going to be a pleasure to bring this to the people tonight, Greg, with three very tough teams right here from Menchville High School. So it's bringing back old memories for me.
Absolutely. Matt looks very nice right there. A little bit of an echo.
There's always that anticipation before the event starts.
All right, Heritage and Denby. Glad you're with us right here. Greg Picaveras, Nate Milton. Underway.
Wow.
Nate, what are you looking for early on?
Early on, it's just what we saw. You know, it's about establishing position. It's about creating dominance right here. And we're seeing a very aggressive stance so far. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. It's about being aggressive, being proactive, and that's what we're seeing right now, Greg.
Both trying to pin each other down.
Jockeying for position right now. Denby doing a good job of pressing the action. We've already seen a couple of great takedown maneuvers.
Sonny, what are you looking for early on?
It started well for Denby with the takedown for two. Still 2-0 as we enter the final minute of the first period.
In the weight division?
113, as you can see on the scoreboard, on the lower half, right in the middle.
Heritage and Denby going at it. Nate, we talk about the fundamentals, but the biggest thing is patience early on.
Right. Well, you don't want to be too anxious. You know, like we said, you want to be proactive, but you don't want to be in a situation where you're over-aggressive and you leave yourself open to getting caught. And so what we're seeing is a proactive stance by Denby, but it's also not rushing into things. It's not being too aggressive, working hard, working calmly and proficiently. And right there you see, just working for that pin.
Both going at it pretty closely here. As Sonny mentioned, 113.
Getting close to that pinfall, folks.
Well, Tony White to my left says the match will end at 106. That will be the last bout of the night. Pin.
Great job right there. And it's like we said, Greg, Denby was working for that pinfall the entire time. And you see, he wasn't too anxious, wasn't too grateful. There we saw the 113 matchup right there. And Denby, the winner. And I like what I saw, Sonny. I like that he was patient, he was proactive, he was aggressive, but he wasn't too aggressive. You know, he didn't leave himself open to get countered by his opponent. Very proficient win right there.
Indeed, he never let the young man from the Hurricanes get the escape. He was on the defensive the whole time and finally on his back. 6-0 Patriots.
Denby is the designated home team for this first matchup. For the next two, it's Menchville. Greg Picaveras, Nate Milton, and Sonny Dirth, glad you're with us right here on Cox Cable 47, 517, NNPSTV.com. Greg Pick on Twitter.
and in the number 8 MOZAIK, Nate Mosaic on Twitter as well.
This is grassroots sports. See the fans right there enjoying themselves. Of course, we're so used to being at Todd Stadium where it's neutral, but this is actually a little Menchville
Right.
home cooking. Nice graphics by our crew right there.
You see the current score, 6-0, Denby in the lead over Heritage. And I think, you talk about that grassroots effort. You talk about going back to basics. And for fans out there,
And the official, of course.
is our official, Mr. Randall Stowe. But for the folks out there that might be interested in MMA or even a sport like pro wrestling, this is where it starts, because you have to have that basis. You have to have that foundation. And for these young men out here, plying their trade, plying their craft. It's great to see. Wrestling is a sport that is not for everyone. It is not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot of determination, a lot of hard work, and that's going to be good to see what these young men can do out here tonight.
It's a great fundamental sport.
Yeah.
You talk about the Greco wrestling women days as well.
A lot of
All
discipline.
right, Sonny, give us an update on the weight division here.
Yeah, we're now at 126, where Dakota Daniels from Denby is doing the battle. And at 113, that last pin was by Juwan Flythe, according to Tony White, to my left.
Again.
All right, Denby and Heritage going at it right here. You're seeing early on they're trying to get a lay of the land right now and try to feel each other out a little bit.
Well, it's kind of like boxing, Greg, like we've seen in boxing matches. You don't want to go out there and leave yourself open to getting caught in a bad situation. So you're seeing two young men out here trying to find the right position, trying to get into a dominant position. And right, you see the Heritage wrestler has a little bit more height, but I think being compact is something that can be a benefit in wrestling because you have a lower center of gravity.
Both going at it very patiently early on. Got to watch your heads for concussion, too, as well. This can be a very physical sport as well.
Yeah, both guys are wearing the headgear, and they're right now you're seeing a lot of hand fighting, a lot of hand checking, but you're always worried about injuries regardless of any contact sport. But I'm sure these young men out here looking to come out here and have a good time, show their skill, and not hurt anybody.
Heritage right now a little bit in control of this. Heritage in the gray, maroon, Denby in the blue and red. We're at Menchville High School at Newport News. Glad you're with us for wrestling. We've done a few matches over the years before.
Heritage forfeited a class. It's now 12-0 in team score for Denby, but Heritage has the lead 2-0 with 15.8 to go in the first period of this class.
So to give us a Virginia Duels update, what did you learn the most about the Virginia Duels this past month?
Well, around here that the Bay Rivers District is pretty daggone good. The black and blue final ended up being Poquoson over Smithfield. Very, very impressive. Poquoson even beat Grundy, which is an historic school in Southwest Virginia with a great wrestling tradition. And also Grassfield won the American division, which was mighty impressive.
Wow. Nice. You talk about mighty impressive, Sonny. That was a nice reversal that we saw right there. Good escape by Denby and then reversing the tide on Heritage.
Yeah,
and there's a time limit, too.
It was 2 minutes for the first period. We'll go 2 more here. Dakota Daniels of Denby has tied it at 2. And looks like they're going to
You like the time?
start the second period.
Nate?
I do, Greg. I think, the time aspect, it brings some strategy into it. It's not just going out there and seeing, who's the strongest or who has the most power, but it's about stamina. It's about strategy. It's about, like we saw with Dakota Daniels, that reversal. It's about not panicking when you're down and finding a way to reverse the table. So great match we're seeing by these two young men, Greg.
Very patient. And like you said early on, nobody's going for the gusto right away.
Exactly. You don't want to make a mistake because you'll end up on the wrong side of things.
Remember, each wrestler gets a chance to decide which way they want to begin. And here, with these guys going neutral.
Wow.
There's 2 for Denby.
Wow.
Denby's got the lay of the land right there, folks. And the key is holding him in that position, too.
Right, and it's that patience that we're talking about, Greg, because at the beginning of the match, Dakota was not in the driver's seat, but now he is definitely in control of this match and working for the pin.
Sonny, what are your thoughts about Dakota Daniels?
He's doing a heck of a job in this period. The takedown got a couple of points, and he darn near pinned him, and he got 3 back points. So it's 7-2 Daniels now with 58.8 left in the second middle period.
Dwayne Hill from Denby, and of course, their great staff.
And, of course, the coach for the Hurricanes, Greg, Chris Pearson, who is the former head coach here at Menchville. And I have experience, when I was a student going through that program, so I know what he's instilling in these young men here at Heritage, and we're going to see if Heritage can come back, or will Daniels be able to continue his dominance here in this match.
Final 40 seconds. Daniels got a commanding edge right now, but it can turn in a second.
Uh-oh. Wow.
We'll see what Randall Stowe says. Got to give Randall Stowe, our friend, a lot of credit there.
I'm telling you, he brings the Christmas spirit all year round.
Doing all 3 matches.
The great official here. But Sonny, again, when you talk about what Daniels just did, starting from a position where early on in the match he was behind the 8 ball, but taking that dominance and coming out the victor, what do you make of that?
And he was taken down, and an impressive turn, literally. He got the reversal to go up 9-5, and then seemingly instantly got the pin before I was even ready for that to be called.
Yeah,
18-0. Denby heavily in command so far. The maximum points of each weight. Most you can get is 6.
Sonny, what are your thoughts about this coming up? It's 18-0. What are your thoughts about this match?
So far, Denby has really looked dominant. We'll see if that continues into the heavier classes.
And for our viewers at home, there we see the score 18-0. The Patriots on top, Sonny. Give them a quick refresher on how the scoring is broken down here in wrestling.
The most you can get out of any individual weight class is 6, and you do that by pins or forfeits. You can get 5 points for your team if you beat a guy by 15 points or more. That's the technical fall.
And it's already tough to get back, Sonny and Nate, from an 18-0 deficit early on. That's almost very difficult in this type of sport where there's already been some forfeits.
Yeah, and then forfeits really hurt. As you're saying, Sonny, with the scoring, forfeits can almost effectively take you out of the match.
Oh, yeah, and then generally one of the ironic things is if you see a team score where there aren't that many points, that probably means both teams are pretty good because they're hard to beat. They're not giving up 6 points per weight class. They're giving up 3 or 4. Those dual scores at the Hampton Coliseum are often like 19-18 and 21-18. Here sometimes the worst you can beat somebody, barring some unsportsmanlike conduct, which is rare, is about, I believe, 84-0. And I don't think any of these teams is going down like that.
And, of course, over the years, Pocosin's had great teams as well as some of the Chesapeake schools as well.
A great bridge for a while with Steve Martin, who ended up coaching Old Dominion, is still there now. And Pocosin with Eric Decker, who's a former Iowa wrestler.
18-0 is the score. These guys are very proactive, a lot of movement. A lot of action in this match right now.
Exactly, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from Denby right now. You see the young man doing a great job just maintaining control of his opponent. Not being too aggressive, not going too fast, but just being patient, being calm, and much like, a cat and a mouse or a spider and a fly, being very calm and working for that pin.
This is Michael Hines from Denby at 132, now gaining the lead. He says when he's older he wants to be a pilot and he wants to go to Purdue.
Oh, okay.
Sonny, what you see about
sophomore
him is he's, we talked about it, the movement involved. I mean, just really aggressive.
Yeah, the thing about these lighter weight classes is the action is fast. These guys are great athletes, and things can change awfully quickly.
Final few seconds left, 18-0. Really impressed by the Denby wrestler here.
Yeah. Pin.
And Randall Stowe saying not so fast.
Man.
I like the sportsmanship afterwards too as well.
Yeah, and I think it's because, you guys know whether it's win or lose, the other wrestler knows what you've been through to get to this point. There's a lot of respect and a lot of discipline necessary for these sports. I think unless you've got a personal beef with somebody, you're not going to see an unsportsmanlike behavior out here.
24-0 in favor of Denby, Sonny. What does Heritage need to do to get back?
Hey, just keep fighting as hard as they can. The great thing about this sport is, besides the team aspect, it's individual. If you win, you can take the credit. If you lose, you don't really want to blame somebody else.
Well, in that respect, Sonny, it's kind of, and this might sound like a funny comparison to some folks out there, but I know both you and Greg are fans of tennis. It's almost like a team tennis situation.
Absolutely.
Where you're an individual, but you also are working towards a team goal.
This does remind you of team tennis a lot. You're exactly right. Where's Billie Jean King when you need her, Sonny? All right, 24-0. A little bit more fundamental. Very methodical start for these two.
Here comes Logan Miner for Denby at 138. He's got a 4.0 GPA and hopes to be a computer engineer and programmer. And he wants to go to Purdue also.
Wow. Purdue's very well known for their engineering school. Famous alumni there, of course, Bob Greasy and Drew Brees.
At the quarterbacking position, at least.
Who knows?
Nate, what are your thoughts here early on?
I think right here what we're seeing is how well coached Denby is. And we're seeing the discipline necessary, and it's very reminiscent for folks out there that are fans of MMA. You know, when you're wondering what makes a good MMA fighter, a lot of it is that wrestling base and the takedown aspect of that. And I think what we're seeing right here is Denby, they've got a really great work ethic when it comes to working for those takedowns, working for those pins, and we're seeing it come to fruition, guys.
Both going at it very methodically. 50 seconds here left. 24-0 in favor of Denby. We're at Menchville High School in Newport News. Greg Bicaveros, Nate Milton, Sonny Darth, glad you're with us.
Chance for a takedown for Heritage here. Didn't happen.
I'm impressed that Heritage is not giving up.
No, I mean, well, if you're going to be a wrestler, there we see another great move by Denby. If you're going to be in this sport, you kind of have to be a lunch pail guy. You know, nothing flashy, nothing fancy. You know, you pack your lunch, you go to work, you work hard, you work through pain, you work through injury sometimes, and you come out here and you perform. And that's what we're seeing by both teams, even though Denby has the large lead right now.
24-0, 28 seconds, and it's easy to lose your breath out here, too.
I'm telling you, conditioning is very important.
You can tell somebody's already winded.
I can tell you so many stories with Coach Pearson back when I was in Menchville. When I was on the wrestling team, Coach Pearson would have us running for days and nights and more days, and I do not miss those days. I don't think, even though I'm still in relatively good shape, Greg, I don't think I could work out like I did back then right now.
Well, you and I have enough trouble getting up the stairs at Todd Stadium.
I'm telling you, that's good enough for me.
All right, final few seconds, 24-0. We'll see what happens here with Randall Stowe calls. He gets the final say. Well executed by both athletes right there, folks.
Choice goes to Heritage for the second period, and let's see what he chooses here.
And this is a very important part of the sport that I don't think a lot of people focus in on, Sonny, you know, when you're talking about what position do you want, because for some folks, like I know when I used to wrestle, I preferred being on the bottom position because it would allow me, you know, using my low center of gravity, not being the tallest person in the world,
right,
to spring up and try to get some points on the escape.
Believe the Heritage wrestler took bottom, hoping to get an escape, because it's probably easier to get an escape than a takedown, isn't it?
Especially, like I said, if you got that low center of gravity and the strong legs.
And it's not one and done either. They got more opportunities to wrestle like we're seeing right now.
Yep.
Well, Logan Miner isn't letting that strategy work so far. That's some back points, 3 of them. Going to be 5-0.
1:30 left.
He's tough up top.
Wow.
Sonny, your thoughts on Miner?
He's been really good this period. You know, the first 30 seconds of it, he's already got 3 back points, and he's working hard for a pin.
Wow. Just to look at the strength right there, Greg, of Logan Miner. You're seeing strength, speed, and conditioning from this young man. And
But you got to wonder if it's too much pressure. If the poor kid can breathe underneath. Look at him. I'm hoping he's okay. I mean, you don't want to hurt the guy too much. I'm serious right now, folks.
You see the Heritage, the young man for Heritage.
He looks struggling right now.
Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. He's fighting, though. You got to give him credit.
Yeah, his safety is number 1.
He's not giving up.
This is not for the faint of heart.
No.
We want to tell the audience this. There's no face mask out here.
Exactly. You know,
other than the headgear.
This is not ballet, folks. This is a contact sport.
This
is a sport where you got to be a tough guy to be out here, and we're seeing two tough guys right now.
They cover their face. They do whatever they got to do to win.
3 more, 8-0.
By the rules, of course.
Wow. And that's the thing. That's the thing about it. You know, it's mano y mano in its finest sense. You know, it's just you and the other guy out there, and it's a battle of will. It's a battle of strength. It's a battle of skill, and it's a battle of determination.
Denby in control.
You see the heritage. You see right there.
I don't like to see the kids suffering like this, either.
But you can also see that determination in his face, Greg. Just fighting, you got to give him credit for not giving up.
Well, as long as he's okay, that's all that matters.
You got to give them credit right there for standing in there. Again, this is what, you know, these guys go out there and they train all week. They train in the heat. They train in the cold. And, you know,
they have to watch their weight, too. A lot of times.
You got to watch. That's one of the most important
Back
parts.
in the day, they used to have to, you know, unfortunately spit in class.
That I'm telling you, like this. And that's one of the things that I really like about wrestling now, Sonny, is in terms of weight cutting, we're seeing that the guys and the coaches are taking more healthy methods to get to that, whereas back in the days, you know, people were taking risks.
Yeah, it definitely seems like some improvements have been made in that regard, because there are a lot of serious illnesses and even deaths I read about.
That's what I was talking about. I mean,
not in this area, fortunately.
Not in this era either, but there were major illnesses, and people need to know about it. It's a fact.
And then you see the coach right there for the Heritage Hurricanes. But, you know, the thing is, and it's something that really wasn't talked about. I know when I was wrestling.
Taboo.
It was something that was kind of taboo. But, you know, we talk about, you know, girl gymnasts being anorexic or bulimic. That was something that actually affected wrestlers because the guys were trying to cut weight in unhealthy ways. So, yeah, it's great to see now that the guys and the coaches and the sport itself has done a much better job at making sure these kids can be healthy.
Very focused athletes out here tonight.
That's it. Technical fall.
Very, very hard-fought match by both guys.
Yes, both give a great effort.
And you hear the crowd giving them both a big ovation. Tough, hard-fought match, but again, what can you say about Minor? You know, I was told before the match tonight, Sonny, that he was going to be one of the guys to watch for. What did you make of his performance tonight?
I can see why. He's very effective on top. I mean, he just felt like whenever he wanted to, he could get back points. The only thing he didn't get that he probably wanted was a pin.
Mm-hmm. He was working hard for it.
Very strong, seems to know a lot of technical stuff.
All right, 27-0. Sonny, give us what's coming up next.
At 145, Tony White says this is for the Patriots will be Kevin Decker, who's 8-3, has a 3.2 GPA, and hopes to be a film director.
Wow.
Writing his own script here.
Very aggressive so far, these two.
I was going to say, it's not going to be an M. Night Shyamalan ending here, Greg. No swerves at all.
Wow. Like a tidal wave.
Good scrap in the first 20 seconds. Denby up 2-1. There was a takedown and an escape, though. It was hard to see.
And like we said, half the battle's just showing up.
Yeah.
Is making your way and not forfeiting.
There you go. You know, again, most of your work is done before we even get to this point,
right.
Greg.
It's a preparation.
Like I said, you know, when I was a wrestler, this was the fun part. All the hard work we'd already done during the week, and this was the fun part.
I've taken some wrestling matches in the past few years at the Daily Press where only about 4 or 5 weights were contested, and that's kind of sad to see. So you'd have 9 or 10 forfeits.
Some of the fans
this
enjoying
is not
the game.
like that.
And the match is right here. Not worried about the weather outside.
No.
They're indoors.
and you talk about, you know, the fans and being out here, and I'm wondering, Sonny, because this is a sport, obviously, you know, I'm a fan of wrestling, I'm a fan of MMA, and I'm wondering, back in the 90s it seemed that there was more interest, or at least mainstream interest in collegiate and high school wrestling, and it's something I wish would get more press and more attention. Why do you think fans have not been so keen to find out about this sport and discover about this sport?
Well, I think there are a lot of people on the peninsula who are really into it, but for the casual fan, it's not quite so easy. You know, the good news is there are so many cable channels now and ways to watch stuff online that you can pretty much see anything you want. If you want to watch Virginia Tech, which is number 5 in the country right now, you can pretty much get all of theirs on ESPN3.
27-0, 1:20 left. And, of course, this is our third time doing this, and, of course, always a treasure. There's pockets of interest in wrestling in Hampton Roads. That's the best way to describe it. There's pockets of interest. A lot of these high schools, even in Newport News, didn't compete in the Virginia Duels, as you know, Sonny. But at least they're making an effort to fill a roster, and the commitment to the excellence is getting back to what it used to be. But, as you well know, like we mentioned earlier, Poquoson schools over the years and Chesapeake schools were always ahead of the curve. And for several decades. Bethel was back in the 70s, Poquoson in the 80s, and, of course, the great Chesapeake schools the last 20 years.
And I know Gloucester's always had some tough teams. And I think the interesting thing is
Menchville here with P.J. Solinsky. And Paul, the team's run by his dad, Paul. They're absolutely good teams.
Was a very tough coach. But I think maybe in a roundabout way, the popularity of MMA and the UFC might help amateur wrestling, because you see so many guys and girls using this as their background, as their foundation. So I do have hope that this was kind of the start of more interest in the sport.
Very good point.
27-0, less than a minute. Sonny, what are you looking for in the last 45 seconds?
Denby's Kevin Decker has the lead right now at 6-2, so he's looking to increase that, and he might even have a shot at back points here.
He's working on a pin.
They know their strategy out here. They know the hand position and the body moving really well.
Yeah, it's almost as
like a pin all the time.
Like former Governor Jesse Ventura called wrestling. It's the human game of chess.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing out here.
Or like a slinky almost. Like a human slinky. A lot of curves and a lot of maneuvers.
Now 9-2 for Decker.
Wow.
Very efficient first period, and with more coming.
And the thing is, Greg, for Heritage, even though they're losing, this is a learning experience as well. Just getting out here, even if you're losing, even if you're being beaten, it is a learning experience that you can bring back to the training room.
Right. They don't have to dominate in every sport, and they do the best they can. 5 seconds.
And since they wrestle Menchville later tonight, they'll have a chance to apply stuff immediately. They won't even have to wait a day to do it.
Yep.
Right, we're going to see Heritage in Menchville and Denby in Menchville.
And that'll be an interesting matchup as Coach Pearson.
So everybody will wrestle twice at least.
Yep, and Coach Pearson will lead the Hurricanes against his former team, the Menchville Monarchs, which he coached for many years back in the 90s.
What they're doing now on the floor is just trying to get some of the sweat and moisture off.
You don't want anybody to slip out here. You want everybody to be safe, take the proper precautions, and then we see the Denby wrestler's got his headgear back on.
I like that mat, kind of a soft cushion type mat as well. I like a boxing ring or a wrestling ring, which is not exactly soft.
No. This is not the WWE ring out there tonight.
We do have chairs out here, though.
Hopefully those chairs will stay in place.
That's probably a lot more likely on this kind of televised wrestling than the other.
Yes, no foreign objects, no sneak attacks, nobody throwing salt.
Sonny's going to leave us and go right to WWE.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
This is way better. Come on.
No fancy robes like Ric Flair. This is grassroots fundamentals right here, folks.
Still some moisture there on the shoes and stuff.
But I mean, I know we're.
And the surface is important.
It is. It's very important, and you want to make sure that all the safety precautions are taken. But we're joking about the professional wrestling, but a lot of professional wrestlers had their starts in the amateur ranks.
Right.
Kurt Angle, one of the most famous professional wrestlers, was an Olympian for America.
You look at the great late Johnny Valentine. He was a pure wrestler.
Yeah.
Greg Valentine's dad. They evolved into that.
Yeah.
But they started back in the day as regular wrestlers like this.
Mm-hmm. A lot of amateur wrestlers. Bobby Lashley has made that transition to pro wrestling.
With The Rock, huh?
Now he's the biggest movie star in the world. So see what wrestling can get you, kids.
All right, 1:40 left, 27-0. Denby in control. Sonny, what are you looking for here?
From what I just saw from Kevin Decker, he's pretty confident he can get another takedown because he let his opponent up. He thinks he can take him down again.
And you see this, they're not a big weight class, but it takes a lot of strength to do this.
Yeah.
A lot of strength and motivation.
You betcha.
27 zip.
Reversal for Decker, 13-5.
And I feel in a lot of ways, Sonny, the lighter weight classes they fight even harder than the heavier weights, because when you're up in those heavier weight classes, it's very easy to just kind of use your weight to your advantage and kind of move guys around that way. But when you're in the lighter weight classes, going up against somebody in a similar weight, you have to use everything: speed, skill, strength, all of that.
And outsmarting the fellow wrestler as well.
That strategy.
A lot of it's body language too.
There you go. That strategy is the big key, Greg.
This to me is more entertaining than, say, a heavyweight match would be, because I can't imagine the frustration if you're a heavyweight to lose something like 1-0 when a guy just sat on you for the whole third period.
Yeah.
I prefer heavyweight myself, but there's not a whole lot of movement in heavyweight either.
You see more movement, more speed involved in the lighter classes. Heavyweight, obviously, you're dealing with power, you're dealing with strength. I think it's fair to say at this point, Greg, I would probably classify as a heavyweight, unlike back when I was in high school.
We got a shutout, Nate. 33-0.
33-0.
It's Logan Decker with the last pin.
Wow.
He was about to get a technical fall if he didn't get a pin, but he got an extra point for it.
Just dominance right now by the Patriots.
All the fans taking pictures on their phones.
I mean, that's how we are now. Everybody's on social media. Everybody is
including Antonio Brown.
Everybody's on Twitter. Yeah, Antonio Brown. Well, Mike Tomlin
was not happy about that.
Was not happy about that at all.
You don't really want to let what coaches what coaches say behind the scenes out to the public.
Nope.
In any sport at any time.
We interviewed Tomlin several years ago. He's very buttoned up. He doesn't say much to anybody.
Yeah.
Let alone, that's the last thing he wanted to say hello to.
Especially
was social media.
Especially in the aftermath of an emotional competitive game.
Yep. That was not exactly a broadcast or an interview at all.
Nope.
That was just somebody
And I really appreciate and applaud the way
crashing the party.
Tomlin handled it, though. He came out and showed leadership and responsibility.
But usually that's the beginning of the end of an athlete. Sometimes when you start doing, because the off season is very long.
Well, see, the problem is though, when you got an athlete the caliber of an Antonio Brown, it's easy to get rid of somebody that might not be that good. But when you're talking about one of your top players,
but we're talking about Tomlin, who's full
difficult.
of integrity as well.
He is.
I don't think Antonio was trying to do anything bad. He just wanted to have a good time, and he just didn't think of the ramifications of what would happen if maybe that speech was heard.
But you have to remember, too, Sonny, the Rooney family and Tomlin are very conservative. They do not – they're not like, let's say, Jimmy Johnson was back in the day, or Barry Switzer.
And I think it's a generational thing, too. It's not something that we would do, but, the kids coming up, the millennials, it's just a normal part of their day to Snapchat or Facebook Live and things of that nature.
All right, 33-0.
And we're now at 152 pounds, and the Denby wrestler here is Luis Echeverria, a sophomore who's 7-4, and says he wants to go to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. Sophomore.
Okay.
Got to love that. Got to love the proactive style early on. You don't hear a lot of noises out of these wrestlers, so it's pretty much, they're keeping within their own limits.
Well, yeah, and because it is so cerebral a lot of times. You're in there, you're kind of working right here, like we see Luis working to that next move. You're trying to get to that next position so you can continue to execute your game plan. Whereas with a sport like football or even basketball,
you see they're locking the chest sometimes, or the head is very important too. If you can stop the head, that's key.
I agree, and I think something like football or basketball, sometimes it's a lot more instinctual. It's a lot more reactive. Whereas with this, you're planning. You're trying to set up the trap and see if you
can spring. You're multitasking constantly,
exactly.
And you can't go to the bench either.
Nope, no timeouts, no substitutions.
So this is how I feel like some of my tennis matches have been over the years in 3-set matches like this. Very difficult to come out.
Well, except that's over 2.5 hours. This is over at most 6 minutes.
Right.
Incredible exertion during that time.
And that's one of the big things that coaches do is focus on conditioning more so than anything else, because 6 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but for the folks at home, start right now. Start running in place for 6 minutes and see how you feel at the end of that. And that's what these guys are doing and so much more.
Randall Stowe looking very carefully as well, the official. 33-0, final few seconds at Menchville High School.
Luis Echeverria closes the first period well with 3 back points, and he'll lead 5-0 after the first stanza.
Sonny, explain the periods to the fans as well.
Make sure with Tony this is correct. I believe in high school it's just 3 2-minute periods. He says that is correct. In college, the matches can go a little longer.
A little longer. Nate will talk about WWE, huh?
It's 60-minute Iron Man match.
And if they're even after those 6 minutes, we'll have sudden victory overtime.
Yep.
All right, 33-0. We're at Menchville High School. It's Heritage and Denby. Heritage in the gray, Denby in the blue. Great sportsmanship by all these athletes out here.
And I've not seen any extracurricular stuff after whistles tonight.
Yeah.
And that's good to see because, much like football, there's so much contact, people can get pretty angry. And
I think the thing that I like about wrestling so much, Greg, is, a lot of times, like you're talking about basketball, the height obviously gives you an advantage. But in wrestling, that's not always the case because if you're a smaller guy, your center of gravity is
You can
lower.
maneuver better.
You can maneuver better. You might have some better leverage. So it's not always a given that the taller guy, the bigger guy, will have the advantage.
And you and I have been to professional wrestling matches, and we saw that even with the women wrestling.
Even in the extreme, remember, we've seen some outstanding wrestlers who didn't have any legs at all.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep.
One from Arizona State, I believe.
Yep.
A lot of them are built like soccer players, very sturdy legs.
That's your base. That's your base for everything
Right.
comes up because, when you're talking about getting points for escaping, a lot of escaping is using that power in your legs.
You're using your entire body, your mind and body, and your spirit to get through this too. And you're maneuvering in all types of ways. Talk about having a good pillow at night here.
Tying them up there like a bow, like a Christmas present, if you will. Wrapping them up. Working for that pinfall.
Ooh. Randall got hit in the face there.
There it is for Luis Echeverria, increasing the Denby lead to 39-0 through 152 pounds.
The key, Nate, will Heritage score. Look like one of Menchville's football teams.
I'm telling you that, Greg. I think what we're seeing, though, even though right there at the end of the match, you saw that sign of respect. You saw the handshake. You saw both guys kind of bow to each other. And so while you're in the moment, while you're in the midst of the match, you're heated. You're in competition. But once it's over, you
Shake hands and move on.
Respect the other man across from you.
All right, 39-0.
And that's
Total
a
control
lesson that can
Denby.
apply to things in life in general. Just
move
respect the
on.
man across from you.
Look the other way sometimes.
There you go.
Now we're at 160 pounds, which is, if I lost a couple pounds, that's the weight I'd wrestle at.
Sonny, how
Craig Edwards, a junior from Denby.
these
says
guys
he-
are using their hands and their arms equally.
Yep, and their legs. He says he wants to design video games and new technology for his own company. That's
Okay.
some ambition. 4-4 this season is Craig Edwards.
Tell him I
from
love
Denby.
Pac-Man.
I was going to say, see if Craig can delete his opponent here tonight. But yeah, that's definitely a lucrative field to go into. You talk about the rise of video games, and now there's like drone racing on ESPN, and the cyber sports, if you will, is kind of that next wave for the millennials out there. So that's a good field to get into. Wow.
Heritage trying to get some type of action here and some momentum
Look at the leverage.
for the bench. This is very even so far, folks. Even though it's 39-0 overall in favor of Denby with 1 minute less.
Working for that
Here.
pin.
Very proactive on both athletes' parts here.
This match represents Heritage's best chance to get a win as it so far.
Denby
gonna be
what's
at
holding
least
that shutout, though, Nate.
Denby work.
Pin, there it
Wow.
is.
Heritage finally on the board.
Heritage get some points here, folks. That was quick.
Heritage finally on the board.
No two-point conversion, though, huh, Nate? It's
Not at all.
39-6.
Great job right there by the Hurricanes finally on the board. And
That gives them some confidence for the future, too.
Not only gives that young man some confidence, but gives the team some confidence, pumps them up a little bit, gets them excited. And so we'll see if that has a carryover effect, Sonny. Does that victory kind of spur on some of the other guys here?
That certainly makes the people on the bench feel better over there. But certainly Denby's in control, and barring something absolutely unprecedented, is going to win the team match. But
But
each bout is its own entity.
Yes.
And
And Sonny,
These guys are carrying
you haven't been
the
around for
pride
our fourth
for
quarter as much, but we keep the tradition going here as well. We got to do a crew list here in just a moment, and Nate's report card as well as the swan song as it gets closer. Sonny, give us the lay of the land right now for the weight class and everything.
At 170, there's a freshman from Denby, Darius Copeland. He says he wants to go to college after high school.
And these are 3 individual matches.
Copeland got the size as a freshman, but it'd be interesting to see, does he have that experience to be able to use that size right now? And Copeland, like you're saying, Sonny, the freshman, Copeland, obviously you can see he has the size. It's just a matter of does he have that experience to use that raw power.
So far, a good start for Heritage in this one, leading 4-1 inside the first minute.
(39-6), 105 left. Solid performance by both these two gentlemen. We're at Menchville High School in Newport News. Greg Bick and 8 Mosaic. S. Dirth on Twitter. Sonny's up at 3 o'clock in the morning tweeting.
Follow Sonny Dirth on Twitter. You will never be bored, folks.
Sonny tweets about everything.
Well, yeah, for those who don't know me, because I'm a nightside copy editor, I live on hours that are kind of like Hawaii's.
Sonny's like a West Coast reporter.
Pin for Darius Copeland. He's the winner at 170 for Denby.
So whatever momentum that Heritage got in the last bout, Denby came right back and seized it on this one. Great job by the young kid, DC, the freshman, picking up the win.
45-6. Sonny, what are you looking for next?
Well, the guys are getting bigger, so the strength is increasing. We'll see who comes out here at 182. Looks like it's going to be Ron Colby for the Denby Patriots, who's hoping to get in the Air Force. Okay. A common thread among the Patriots, it would seem.
Yeah.
He's 5-6 this year, 16-year-old.
Sonny, how about coaching strategy overall for the two coaches?
Well, in these guys, I just think they're coaching each individual person the best they can. They know them. They practice with them every day. Now, if this match were close, there might be an option of which guy to send out at which time. But that probably is not a factor in this one.
All right, 45-6, and the wrestling community is very close.
I'm telling you, man, the wrestling community is very close. I've got friends that I wrestled with at Menchville. I've got friends that I know that have gone on to college and wrestled, and they're excited that we're bringing this to the people, and they definitely want to see more interest in wrestling here in Hampton Roads and on the peninsula.
Yeah, we talked about the outside of the broadcast, Virginia Duels at the Hampton Coliseum.
That's one of the preeminent events in the country.
Yeah.
For decades at the Hampton Coliseum, high school and colleges both.
Yep.
Where it's great to see, and a lot of the college coaches have recruited some of the athletes that have played the duels over the years.
A brilliant idea by, I believe it was Jim Casey at Pocosin and a lot of his friends back in the early 80s. And it has worked wonders.
Nice float over right there by Heritage, working for position.
45-6, final 30 seconds. Heritage and Denby.
Canes are up 2-0 in this bout. A lot of action, but not much scoring here.
You got to feel for Heritage. They got to wrestle Menchville after this, and the advantage Menchville has, they're resting right now.
Yeah, it's an advantage, but also Menchville's got 2 matches back-to-back, though, so we'll see if that has any effect on them tonight.
Looks like Denby's got it again.
Ryan Colby with the pin.
The executive producer of NNPS is Michelle Price. Tonight's producer is Ray Price, the director of Bill Barlow, of course. Greg Lesko, our engineer. Carl Daniels is with us, our great students as well. And we'll do this for all 3 matches respectively as well. And as I mentioned, Greg Lesko. Nate, take it away with the students.
And of course, we got No Way Jose Sullivan in the truck. We got Gabe Odachowski, Dion Davis, Summer Ely, Muriel Gamble, the Chief, Eleanor Stuck, DC Darren Cooper, Cameron Dorsey, And, of course, shout out to all of our crew here for the work that they've done with this event, bringing this match to you folks. It's a treat to bring this to you. And, of course, we can't forget Dwayne Peterson in the building.
Right? It's 57-6.
On there, looks like Eddie Harden of Denby won by a forfeit at 195. The Canes didn't have anybody to oppose him. And at 220, looking to see what happens here. 57-6, Denby over Heritage in this Peninsula District clash.
Nate, go ahead. Now time for the report card. First of all, an overall grade for the visiting team first, Heritage.
I'd say overall for Heritage, they see getting a win by forfeit. Overall for Heritage, I'm going to give them a C for tonight, Greg, because I think, the score aside, we saw a lot of hard work. We saw a lot of determination. We saw a lot of heart. That one match that we saw earlier where the kid looked like he was going to get pinned 4 or 5 different times, and he just kept fighting. A lot of heart right here. And I know a coach, Pearson coach team is always going to be tough.
And this hurts. Forfeits do hurt.
Forfeits do hurt.
So a C for them.
I'll give a C to the Hurricanes for tonight. But for Denby, I was very impressed with them tonight. I think, when you're talking about somebody like Minor or Echeverria, I think we see a lot of balance between their older stars and some of the freshmen coming up. I think that Denby is going to be in good hands. I like what they did tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Patriots – I'm going to give the Patriots a B for their efforts here tonight, folks. They did a great job coming out here, establishing the tone. There you see the score, 75-6.
All right, Nate, as Denby wins it, 75-6. Sonny, your final thoughts before Nate gives his thoughts, too.
Yeah, it looked like 4 guys from Denby received forfeits at the very end of the bout, and it looked like among them were David Beato, Jonathan Flores, and Carlos Gonzalez. Heritage hasn't built a strong enough program yet to have wrestlers at that weight. Hopefully, when guys see this, they'll come out and want to be a part of it.
Yep. Sonny, thank you for all that you do for the radio TV log and being a great friend in radio and TV for us for 29 years. Thank you. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Nate, and thank you, Tony.
All right. Yeah, don't forget where you got some more stuff coming up. But as we do a tradition here in football, and we do for all the sports, Nate, as you see it, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. We do it always. We're fair. We're equal. It's 75-6. Nate, take it away.
And it does hurt because I have so much respect for Coach Pearson, but we got to follow tradition.
Yes, we do.
Tipping the cap to the late great Dandy Don Meredith from Monday Night Football. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night, the party's over. And tomorrow and next week and in a couple minutes, we'll do the same old thing again.
That's so true. And we have a lot of fun here, folks. We got to keep our football tradition, of course. 6 games this past fall. And, of course, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. Yep. But the bottom line was Denby was focused from the outset.
Denby was focused. Like Sonny was saying, they have a more established program. Heritage is going to get there. But tonight, they went up against a team that was ready. They were a well-oiled machine. They practiced, just like we said at the beginning, Greg. What do you put in to prepare for this? We saw the preparation out there on the mat tonight. Great win by the Patriots.
75-6 over Heritage. All right, we've got 2 more coming up. We've got Heritage and Menchville, Denby and Menchville. For Nate Milton and, of course, our great people in the truck, Sonny Dearth, I'm Greg Picaveras. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon.
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
All right, well, welcome back here. And, of course, Nate, we have Heritage and Menchville. And one thing about you got to look at Heritage is they just wrestled.
Yeah.
So fatigue will be an issue.
Right. It's going to be interesting because, this is part 2 of our triple header, our triple threat match, if you will, folks. It's going to be interesting to see not only the physical attributes of Heritage. Are they going to be fatigued? Are they going to be sore from just taking on Denby? But mentally, what state are they going to be in? For the Monarchs, though, it's going to be interesting to see what they can do defending home court, as it were. what state of mind are they going to come out? Are they going to be aggressive, and are they going to take it to the Heritage Hurricanes? It's going to be a very interesting matchup, folks.
And there is a home mat advantage here, too.
Exactly. The men from the Ville are ready to step up tonight.
All right, let's welcome Tony White. He'll be on the February edition of Sports Highlights. Good to see you, Tony, the head coach at Warwick High School, and thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And it is good to have you here, Tony, because this is going to be exciting. We saw one match earlier, Greg, and now we've got Heritage Menchville in part 2 of our triple header. Denby Menchville will be the last matchup. But for this match right here, Greg, I'm going to be interested to see what strategy Coach Pearson has for these Hurricanes as they come out, like you mentioned, getting through with that first match only minutes ago.
That is correct. Heritage and Menchville, and like we said, Tony, it's, Heritage just wrestled. They're going to be a little fatigued.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and they're a young team, too, so this is new for them. I think this is probably their 3rd or 4th match this year.
Okay.
Nate, our same buddy, the official?
Yes, we got our great official, the one-man crew out here tonight. To be interested to see this action that he's going to call. And I'm really looking forward to this. And one thing that I'm wondering, particularly, Tony, when you talk about the strategy of a coach, with Coach Pearson and these Hurricanes, you talk about the team being young and not being as established as some of these other schools. What type of mindset as a coach do you have to get your guys ready to come back out so quickly?
Well, I think you got to have a short memory, and that loss that they just took, they had just about 5 to 8 minutes to get rid of it.
Okay.
And now we start over, and they start fresh, and it's a brand new match.
And here we go with our first bout.
Fletcher Hayes for Menchville. Nate, what are you looking for here?
For Menchville, I want to see them come out and set the tone. I want to see the guys come out, like we said, show some proactiveness. Be aggressive, but not overly aggressive. And right here, Fletcher Hayes wasting no time going for the pin early on, folks. Menchville definitely trying to assert himself, Greg.
Menchville's up 6-0. They've already won one by forfeit. We're at the 126 weight class right now. And that's one thing you don't want to see as much, Tony White, is the forfeits. You'd rather not see those.
That's right. It's hard to come back from 6 points, missing weights to wrestle. So, yeah, absolutely, you don't want to see forfeits.
And we saw 5 forfeits in the last match between Heritage and Denby. So it would be safe to assume we're going to see 5 more from Heritage against Menchville.
And they're going to be fatigued. That's going to be the theme of this match. They just got off the mat.
And it's a unique proposition. It's a unique challenge that I think we see in wrestling that you might not see in a sport like tennis or some of the other individualized team sports.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and I'll tell you another thing, too. That last match was about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and 8 minutes to recover.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a nice win by Fletcher Hayes. Congratulations to Fletcher. We're already at 12-0 already, and just like that, Heritage is behind the 8 ball. And, you have a short-term memory, but you don't want to get beat again.
It's kind of like being a defensive back in football. If you get burned, you just kind of have to erase that and get on to the next play. So we'll see, what Coach Pierce has done to get these Hurricanes ready against a very game Menchville Monarch squad tonight.
All right, we're seeing Nathan Swanson from Menchville. Nathan's at 132. And Heritage is trying to get some type of momentum.
They need to try to get something going here, see if they can get some points on the escape, maybe have a counter here for what Menchville's trying to do. And I really like what Menchville's established here with the program this year. Greg, you and I had a chance to talk to Coach Furman before the match here tonight, and I'm really impressed with the young man, and I think he's bringing some excitement to this Menchville team.
He is, and he came from Syracuse, the New York area. And, of course, him and Tony White leading the charge. We're looking forward to having Tony on Sports Highlights. Came by the TV studio recently. Excited about being on the show. 12-0 here. We're at Menchville High School. It is Heritage and Menchville. Heritage been a school since 96, 97. Menchville opened up in 1970. Well, they're in the basketball gym, but of course we're Got the nice mat. Talk about the surface of the mat, Tony. Are you pleased with how the surface is?
Oh yeah. It's
Nice cushion.
It's a nice cushion. I mean, nobody wants to get slammed on it, but but when you go down, it's better than the hardwood.
Yeah.
Right. Last 30 seconds.
Heritage doing a good job turning the tables here.
You see the heads moved in all types of directions, and you have to watch your neck, Nate.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things about wrestling that when I back in the day when I was wrestling for Menchville, we worked extensively on making sure our necks were strong, making sure our backs were strong, the core of your body, because you're going to be put in some interesting positions out there on the mat, and you got to be strong enough to withstand it.
And that's the thing, too, Tony. A lot of times you would see the wrestlers back in the day, the stocky legs and the short necks.
That's right. Well, if they're building them right, that's the way they look today.
Yeah. What were your thoughts? We asked Sonny Dearth about the Virginia Duels. You are a participant. What did you think about it?
Oh, I think it's the greatest show on earth. I mean, that's why they call it the granddaddy of them all.
Yep.
I mean, it's best wrestling in the country you're going to see.
12-0, right there at the Hampton Coliseum.
And the great thing about that is, like Sonny mentioned, not only is it the collegiate wrestlers, but you're also getting the best in the area as well and around the country. And I think it's a great place for young men and women that are interested in the sport to go and see, okay, this is what it's all about.
Yeah, well, on Sunday, the day after, they had a kids' national tournament.
Wow.
So you're talking about kids from 4 all the way up to the college level in one weekend.
Hey.
132 wait. 12-0 the score. Greg Bickaveris, Nate Milton, Tony White with us. The head coach at Warwick High School, our guest commentator.
That was William Marrero with the pin.
Yeah.
So they're on the board.
Puts Heritage on the boards. Reasonable now, 12-6.
Yeah, 12-6, and Marrero did a good job. He was in danger early on, and he's almost in danger of getting pinned, Tony, but showing a way to show some resilience and fight back. I was really impressed with the young man right there.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, it didn't over till the whistle blows, right?
And Heritage scores earlier this time too, Nate. So now we got coming up 138, and that's Anthony Sales for Menchville.
And I wonder, Tony, as a coach, Greg and I talked about the forfeits for Heritage. As a coach, who you've got for the weight classes. So do you game plan according to, we're going to be, 12 points down automatically off the bat or 36 points down? Do you game plan around your forfeits?
Oh, yeah. You've got to have some strategy. And it doesn't matter who you're wrestling. You have to have some strategy out there. But when the matches become more even, that's when it means that much more.
135. Anthony Sales for Menchville at home on his own mat. Going against Heritage. Monarchs up by 6, 12-6 with 1:20 left in this period. Greg Bickaveris, Nate Milton, Tony White. For more, log on to nnpstv.com. Sports highlights on Mondays at 7, 2 and 7, weekends at 9.
And I think, Greg, maybe my favorite thing about wrestling and one of the more underrated aspects is the poise that you have to have, because I'm asking the guys and the girls at home to imagine somebody grappling you to the ground. You're not going to be in your the most calm state of mind, but to be in a position where you're in danger of being pinned and to remain calm and know that you have a game plan, that takes a lot of practice and a lot of discipline instilled by the coach.
And Tony, you've been around long enough. We talked about it in their earlier broadcast. When these necks are moved in different positions, injuries can happen like in football at times.
Yeah, they certainly can. Like Nate was saying earlier, we practice extensively on getting those necks strong.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a daily thing.
Yeah, because also, too, fatigue. Remember, these are not professional athletes. They've been at school since early in the morning, and to have their energy level this late to compete in a very physical sport is a testament for the coaching staff and the athlete himself.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, they say you gotta train a lifetime for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's true. There are 2-minute periods. Nathaniel Jones from Menchville worth the 145 weight class. The score is 18-6 in favor of Menchville. Nate, your alma mater.
Yes, and then it's funny because I'm here at Menchville, my alma mater, and then my former coach, Coach Pearson, is sitting over there on the Heritage bench, and I just remember Tony's talking about the training and the preparation that goes into it. I can remember many afternoons spent running from Menchville High School all the way down Oyster Point, all the way down Jefferson, and we would get tired, but Coach Pearson never seemed to get tired. So he was a great example for us that if you want to be out here and excel, you got to put in the work.
And this is one sport that all parts of the body, the head, the arms, the legs, the conditioning is so important, and the strength too as well. Do they do a lot of weightlifting, or they try to morely focus on the weight?
I think most good programs, they do the heavy lifting in the off season, and then they do the functional type lifting during the season.
Right. Now your brother, he likes the UFC stuff, correct?
Oh yeah, and he cut his teeth right here on this mat.
Right.
Yep, and matter of fact, I was just going to get to that point. You talk about some of the guys that Coach Pearson coached. You talk about Nick White here at Menchville. You talk about somebody like a Richard Joyner, who I saw the other day and let him know we were going to be covering this event. Leon Hicks and Troy Gage, some of the other guys I remember competing on this mat with here in this gym. And it's not only the coaches, Tony, but it's when you have a chance to practice against guys, like a Nick or like a Richard Joyner, that only makes you better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The tougher the guy you're going against on a daily basis, the tougher you're going to become, and the quicker you're going to become tough.
Yeah.
What do you think about Randall Stowe, one-man referee tonight? Is that general protocol?
He's been around for a long time. I think one ref can get this done.
At the duels, they have a lot of refs, though.
And they have a lot of matches.
Yes.
Yep.
Randall can't do it all by himself. All right, it is now 18-6, 1:55 left in this period. Menchville up by 12. A lot of moving around. Like a roller coaster, Nate, is the best way to describe it.
It is. It's again, going back to that old line from Jesse Ventura, it's that human game of chess out here with these young men. And it's a battle for position. It's a battle of skill. It's a battle of will. And we're seeing, some very talented young men out here tonight.
You see the injuries do happen, folks. I mean, this is live in motion, and the kid is in pain. It does happen. We just talked about it. He's struggling right now.
That's the thing. Whether you're talking about wrestling or football or basketball, you're gonna get hurt. There's a contact sport. There are gonna be injuries that pop up from time to time. It's a matter of can you work hard, and can the coaching staff and the training staff attend to those needs?
It's 24-6. You've always heard about the wrestling cauliflower ear, and that's not pretty either.
That's right.
Well, explain that to the fans out there.
Well, that's cartilage in the ear that's been broken, and when it actually heals, it's not like you can put a real cast on it. So it heals in whatever position it was that the doctor put it in, or if you didn't go to the doctor, then it heals in a really bad position.
Yep.
And unfortunately, once you've broke your ear, you're more apt to break it again.
We got Collette out here at 152. Tony, you see that sometimes they move from 145 to 152. Sometimes I guess they can gain that type of weight.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that is 7 pounds still. It's a few burgers, Nate, for you.
Well, as a legal maneuver, you can actually move one of your wrestlers up one weight class. You can't move down, but you can move up one.
Okay.
You know how many Nathans are on this team? There's a Nathan Swanson. There's a Nathan Collette. There's a Nathaniel Jones.
Yes.
Nathaniel Lyon.
It's a fine
And
name.
we got Nathaniel
Greg.
Milton out here.
I know we're supposed to be impartial, but there's something I like. Can't put my finger on it, but there's something about this Menchville team. Something I like about them.
Hey, Harris getting back, some points. I got to give the Hurricanes a lot of determination and a lot of grit here for just getting off the mat against Denby.
Yep.
And then, of course, showing some spirit and fight here against the Monarchs down by 12.
And that's the thing. Even against Denby, even though the score was so lopsided, we didn't see the guys quit for Heritage out there, Tony. And then I think, again, a lot of credit knowing Coach Pearson. That goes to him and the assistant coaches because, they've got to instill that type of discipline and resiliency in these young men.
Nathaniel Lyon at 160 from Menchville. Menchville in the purple, Heritage in the gray. Glad you're with us. for your time, your talent, and treasure out here.
And you see that chess match out there, Greg.
It is, and it's anybody's matchup here too. Using their hands, going to the legs,
nice.
going to the legs. There you see it, folks. Using the legs as a strength, now going to the neck for Heritage. He went from the hands to the legs to the neck, and that's what he's got his arms around right now.
Yeah,
both around the neck.
He did a good job of kind of feeling things out with his hands and then shot for the takedown.
And you saw the last kid was struggling out here. I mean, you take your eye off the mat for a second, it could be defeat. Correct, Tony?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tony's learning from me tonight, folks. Tony and I are going to wrestle afterwards.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
I want to see that one.
Yeah, this guy, Emmanuel Wright, when we wrestled him, I tell you what, he was a tough character.
Who in your team has stood out this year, in your opinion? Who's really been your biggest surprise for Warwick's roster?
I would say Dylan Messick and Keo Halls.
Okay.
Yeah, they're 106 and 132.
Did your brother come out and watch you sometimes?
He hasn't yet.
You got to give him a little bonus to get Nick out there, huh?
Well,
Nick's got to get an appearance fee.
Hey, I tell you, if he
was he like that when he was a kid too?
Yeah. If he hadn't had to work this weekend, he would have been out at the duels.
Right. Nick's a really good kid too. All right, it is now 24-12, final few seconds. And I got to get your opinion too, Tony, because Nate and I have been to TNA professional wrestling matches. I've interviewed several on the radio, and we've done on TV as well. In your opinion, and of course the UFC, WWE, TNA, has that affected high school and college wrestling as far as the kids are enamored with what they see on the internet and TV? I want to be like The Rock, or I want to be like Nate said, Kurt Angle or Goldberg, for example. Is that the wrong message, or these guys still got the fundamentals?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I think that UFC has most definitely affected it more than anything. The professional wrestling, it's so funny because most of our youngest kids that come out, that's what they think this is. And you know, they're in for a rude awakening on the very first day.
You have to educate them very much.
Yep.
That's right.
All right, now it's 24-12, 135.
Yep. I remember, you know, I'll be honest, when I first went out for wrestling when I was at Menchville back in the 90s, I had no idea. I just went out because my friends were going out. And I remember the first time I got pinned, and it was just the one count. And I was like, don't I get two more counts? Where's the other two? And that was that quick education right there. But I think another point that you make, Tony, is when you talk about MMA, and even to a lesser extent pro wrestling with a guy like a Kurt Angle or Bobby Lashley.
Or Goldberg back in the day.
You know, I think there's an element of the amateur wrestling that ties into that, particularly with UFC when you look at a guy like John Jones and what he's able to do because of that amateur background. It allows everything else to be built on that foundation.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. UFC has gotten so good now technically that you have to be more than a wrestler and more than just a fighter. So you have to come as the total package. Yep. But I tell you what, if you try to show up without this part, you can forget about it.
Yep, you can have the hardest punch in the world, but if somebody takes you down and you can't do anything, I mean, that's Kimbo Slice, you know, the late great Kimbo Slice. You know, he was somebody that had very powerful hands, but had no ground defense, and if you could take him down, you'd won the match.
That's right.
24-12, 18 seconds. Tony, give us a lay of the land as far as equipment. Of course, there's some headgear, but really, other than the uniform, the shoes, maybe some mouth guard occasionally.
That's right.
Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, it's really a easy sport to put roots down on. Financially, you need a mat. That's the biggest thing you need.
Yeah.
And after that, some uniforms and some shoes and headgear, and
good attitude,
you're ready.
And a good attitude.
Oh, well, you got to have an attitude, and you got to have a heart.
But you cannot step on the floor if you have an attitude. You will lose in a minute. You won't put up with it either.
Nope.
Oh, no.
It's 24-18. I got to give Heritage a lot of credit, folks, for persevering.
And now 24-24. 24 all, tied up. So a much more competitive showing from Heritage this go-around, Greg. Much more competitive matchup than we saw against the Denby Patriots.
Also want to thank Jackson Erb out here from Menchville for helping us out, too, as well. And, of course, 182 now with James Culver. A lot of former Menchville alumni here.
It's a great place to be educated, Greg. That's all I'm going to say about that. Again, remaining impartial.
Hey, we're tied up, Tony White. It's 24-all.
It is. You know,
I'm surprised by this because the last match, Heritage didn't look good at all.
well, you know, sometimes it's all about matchups.
Yeah.
And mental preparation, too.
Yeah, that's right.
So right now, Nate, they've turned a new leaf here, and they're fatigued.
I've been really impressed. Well, and here's another thing, though. Sometimes, you know, there's nerves, especially, you know, this might be the first time the guys have seen TV cameras or a TV truck outside when they pull up to a gym. And that first go-round, you know, you might have to work out some nerves or some jitters. And now the guys, they're warmed up, they're ready to roll, and now we're seeing a more competitive Heritage team.
Well, I'm quite certain Coach Chris Pearson had something to do with that during the 8-minute break.
Yeah, if that man can't light a fire under you, I don't know who can.
These necks are moved in all types of directions. Talk about sitting in the jacuzzi after this.
I'm telling you.
Can you imagine you and I doing this, Nate? We wouldn't be able to talk till football season.
I could not get back into a wrestling workout if I tried at this age. But one of the elements that I think a lot of people overlook, Greg, is your flexibility. Like, you have to be stretched out. You have to be able to have your body bend and contort in different fashions to be able to escape maneuvers and come across with different counters. And so, you know, wrestling to me is one of the sports where it's everything. It's power, it's speed, it's strength, it's agility. It's a bit of everything, Tony.
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, when I was first coaching, I didn't see the real importance of stretching. But I tell you what, it didn't take long to realize through many injuries that about 15 minutes a day, that's what our team does. It stretches.
Yeah. But you got to get the, you're tight and sitting in class all day, too.
That's
You know,
right.
these are kids. Kids are people, too. All right, 24-all. It is Heritage of Menchville or Menchville High School in Newport News, Virginia. Greg Bickavaris, Nate Milton, glad you're with us. Tony White, our special guest.
Yes.
Our entire TV crew. Nate, your thoughts so far?
I've been really impressed by what I've seen from Heritage right now. They have come out with some fire, with some intensity, and we're seeing a much more competitive matchup than we did in the first match of our triple header here tonight. I think that we're seeing a team that is focused, and they realize, this is it. This is their last match tonight. Our final match is going to be between Denby and Menchville, so they're going to come out here and leave it all out there on the mat. There's no sense in saving it up for a little bit later.
Try to go 500 if they can't here.
Exactly.
Do you normally see this as the protocol for a trifecta match out here, or is it normally you like the dual matches, the one-on-one? What do you prefer yourself?
Well, if I had my druthers, I would do a JV match and a duel, because then you bring back all the rivalries, and everybody gets to see the young guys that are on the bench. They would never be seen unless there was a JV match.
Yeah,
So
the advantage we have in this is we're getting 3 of the 5 Newport News schools here tonight in one event.
that is
The
certainly
only thing
an
we're missing
advantage.
is Warwick and Woodside, and of course we got the Warwick coach with us.
And one of the things that we were talking about earlier was Sonny, in terms of choosing what position you take. I think that's a interesting strategy because, like I was saying earlier, because of my stature, I would always choose bottom position because it was easier to kind of get those escape points. But in terms of a coach, is there kind of a standard strategy that you have for your guys, or do you let each guy kind of choose individually?
Oh no, it's we make it very clear it's the coach's choice. Now every once in a while when maybe we're up or maybe the match isn't quite as competitive, we'll give the choice to the wrestler. But for the most part, it's a strategy, and if you need a point or you need 3 points, instead of just going up on our feet, we'll go down and get the escape, then get the takedown.
But isn't it ideally just better just to have one mano-a-mano match so you don't have to focus on another match afterwards?
Absolutely.
I mean, think about it. They just wrestled, Denby Heritage did, and they got without even a 5-second break, basically, they got to wrestle a well-rested Menchville team. Already Menchville is at home. That's an advantage. And they're rested.
That's right.
Don't tell that to Heritage, though, Greg. Heritage
But
up
I'm
on
just saying,
Menchville,
still,
30 to 24.
30 to 24.
And I think, though, like we were saying, though,
It's not over yet.
A lot of times, if I'm Menchville and I've been sitting around through the first match, and I'm, sometimes nerves can play against you. You get so excited to come out here and do what you've been training all week to do, and then just that wait, that 40-minute wait or however long that first match took, sometimes you get a little cold.
That's right.
And the other team is coming in, even though they're fatigued, they've been working. They've been out there on the mat, so they're a little bit more warmed up, and sometimes that can give them an advantage, even though it looks like a disadvantage.
That's right. That's right. Well, and that's why if you're sitting, you just got to be – I try to get my guys not to be in the match that they're watching to get their mind elsewhere, maybe with some music or something like
But
that.
as soon as we said Heritage got the lead, it's now 30-all because the advantage what I just talked about. Rule number 1, I'm always right. Rule number 2, look at rule number 1. Avery LeBranc won by forfeit.
Yep, and then like we said, they were 5 forfeits in the last match, so this is going to be something we're going to see, especially with the heavier weights. Heritage just does not have the depth right now to field those heavier weights.
Now listen to this, and then Menchville's got the lead, and of course Derek Simmons, 285, won by forfeit. Derek's nickname is the Biscuit.
The Biscuit. So
He's eating a few biscuits.
he's a biscuit shy of 290, I'm guessing.
All right, we're down now to.
That's good.
This is Zach Gonzalez at 113. Then we're going down to now. Nan, I think you can handle Zach out there. I think.
I don't know. I might be a little bit bigger than Zach, but he's probably in much better shape than I am at this point, Greg.
This is an example, Tony, what we were talking about. The shorter kid who's got the strong presence about him.
That's right. Well, this guy's a young guy and first-year wrestler, and he just moved here, as a matter of fact, from South Carolina. So he's not only new to wrestling, new to the area.
Welcome, Mr. Gonzalez, to Menchville High School in Newport News. It's 36-30. The Monarchs. We'll get to our crew list in just a few moments before this will be over as well.
What do you think the toughest part is, Tony, in terms of coaching a young guy? You know, in terms of, is it the physical part of the game or is it the mental part of being out there on the mat?
Well, if they come to you physically fit, it's a lot easier. But yeah, it's a total package, and you just gotta try to stay as balanced as you can, and when you know a lot, you just gotta remember you can't shove it in their face. You gotta spoon feed them. And
all right, 36-30 Menchville. This is Zach Gonzalez, and I'm going to thank our executive producer, Michelle Price, coordinating producer, with us since 1992, Ray Price, director Bill Barlow since 1993, Mr. Greg Lesko, the engineer, doing a great job with the audio and video, Carl Daniels, excellent supervisor working with Ray Price, and of course our great students as well. Nate will take care of the student list here in just a few moments.
Heritage working on the pen right here. And, of course, our student list. We got Jose Sullivan, Gabe Odachowski, Deion Davis, Summer Ely, Muriel Gamble, Eleanor Stuck, DC Darren Cooper, Cameron Dorsey, and, of course, Dwayne Peters.
And, of course, Monarchs getting it done right now. And that's the key. Heritage had the advantage for a second, and then they tie it up. It's all tied. 36 all. Anybody's match right now.
Well, I think right now they moved to criteria.
And for the list for the viewers at home, can you explain what that entails, Tony?
Well, I think it's. I think the first one is, did anybody have unsportsmanlike and points against them, and the answer is no. Then they'd go, I believe, to the most wins, and if they were even across the board, it would be who had the most pins or forfeits.
Okay.
All right. Nate, report card first of all for. Let's give the visiting team the honors first. For Heritage, I got to give him a lot of perseverance credit.
I do. I gave him a C for the first match, but I give him a solid B here as we see the fans out here enjoying this great competition, man, because they came out, and it would have been very easy, I think, Tony, for them to kind of be down. But you got to give credit to these young men out here as well as to the coaching staff because they came out here, they fought, they competed, and they acquitted themselves well. So I give them a solid B for this effort. And for the home team, the Menchville Monarchs and Coach Furman, You know what? I'm going to say that I'm going to give him a B as well. But it's a B trending down, whereas I think Heritage is a B trending up, if that makes sense, folks. Because I think they came out, they didn't embarrass themselves at all. They came out, they competed. But I do think that considering the circumstances of being the home team and being the rested team, you would think that they would have an easier time. But it just goes to show you, matches aren't won on paper, and anything can happen out there on the mat.
What do you think about Coach Furman, what he's brought to Menchville's program?
Oh, I think it's exciting. I mean, he's a energetic young guy, and he does well with recruiting. He's actually a math teacher in the school, so he gets to talk to these guys and out in the hallway seeing them and talking to the administrators. And I tell you what, he's actually got this team pretty excited.
All right, we'll take a short break. We'll be back after these messages. You're watching Wrestling on NNPS TV.
Remember, you can prevent this from happening to yourself. Wear a helmet when riding a bike. And also, watch out for cars, but still, remember to wear a helmet.
All right, we're back right here in Newport News, Virginia. Greg Piccaveros along with Nate Milton, Tony White. And Tony, kind of give us a lay of the land right here. Coach Furman and, of course, Randall Stowe, the official, are conversing right now.
Yeah,
take us inside that huddle.
Well, what they're doing is they're looking at that rule book, and then they're balancing that against the scorebook. And like I said, the first thing they're going to probably look at is unsportsmanlike, which I didn't see any, nor did I hear any called. And then they'll look at who had the most wins. And if in that is tied, then they'll look at what I believe would be the most pins or the most forfeits.
And you like it to be ended kind of like on the scoreboard as opposed to this too, right?
Oh,
ideally.
absolutely.
This is not what you want to do right now.
The name of the game in wrestling is domination,
right.
Not only on the mat, but on the scoreboard as well.
Ties don't do anybody any good, and there's no ties.
Well, I don't believe they'll let you tie.
Right.
I mean, I guess at the very end there's probably 15 things, and if you still tied at that point, I guess you'd still be tied.
It's almost like that commercial, you want to get away.
right.
They can't make a decision right now.
And I can't say enough about Heritage, because not only were they tired, Tony, but we knew they were going to have forfeits coming into this thing.
That's right.
So to be able to, at least to this point, have the tie, and even if they end up losing, to put on that type of effort, you got to tip your cap to them.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you what, to overcome 5 forfeits, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and they just wrestled, prior to against Denby as well.
That means more than half of that team right there had to have a pin in order to get where they're at now.
And half the battle for them was just showing up tonight and wrestling again back to back. That's tough. I mean, I prefer mano-a-mano, like you said, one-on-one. We can really focus the mind, the body, and spirit. Of course, we're going to get an update here.
Here we see the handshake, the sportsmanship by both teams.
All right, Michelle and Elijah right there enjoying themselves.
Maybe a future wrestler right there, future monarch.
All right, let me give you an announcement here. Heritage just won.
Heritage by decision.
So, Nate, Heritage, Perseverance, they get an A. Nate, of course, Menchville got the defeat. And take it away, Nate.
Yeah, big time win by the Heritage Hurricanes. Certainly not the way Menchville would have wanted to. Menchville would have wanted to start off tonight, with the criteria going in the favor of the Heritage Hurricanes and Coach Pearson. Big time victory for the Hurricanes. Again, winning
37-36. Yeah, 37-36. And that's the thing. Nobody wants to win by criteria, Tony White. They don't want to win by criteria. But in that case, a 1-point win, they'll take it. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Right?
Hey, as long as you get the win.
The W is the W at the end of the day.
I got to give Heritage an A, Nate, for you coming back and winning. 37-36. Heritage beats Menchville. Nate, take it away with the song.
Wow, and again, it almost feels bad to sing the song to anybody right now at this point, because both teams came out and played hard. But Menchville, at least for this match, in the great tradition of Danny Don, the late great Danny Don Meredith, turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all home. Good things must end. Call it a night. The party's over. And tomorrow, and in a few minutes, Menchville will do the same old thing again.
And Heritage had the most takedowns, and they win it 37-36. All right, we've got one more, folks.
Wow.
We got Denby and Menchville. We'll see if Denby can do what Heritage did and come back, but we'll find out. Heritage beats Menchville on the road. That's never easy so far. We've seen Denby beat Heritage. Heritage return the favor against Menchville. What will Denby do to Menchville for the trifecta? For Nate Milton, I'm Greg Bicaveras. We'll talk to you soon. Stay tuned.
You don't have to change just to fit in. You don't have to apologize for who you are. Just be yourself, and I promise people will enjoy it. Just be yourself. Be your real, imperfect, flawed, quirky, weird, beautiful, and magical person you are. Be yourself. Because everyone else is already taken. Just be you.
All right, we got Fletcher Hayes at Menchville, 126, as we're back for our third match tonight between it is Denby and Menchville, one of Nate's favorite rivalries.
Yes, one of the biggest rivalries in the area, one of the oldest rivalries, and this is going to be a great way to kind of cap off our triple header here tonight, guys.
Greg Bicaveras, Nate Milton, Tony White joining us. So far, we've seen a few different matches tonight between Heritage and Denby and Heritage and Menchville. Denby won the first matchup, Heritage the second. Now we got the third. Save the best for last, right, Nate?
There you go. And again, the question is going to be much like we were talking about in our last matchup, is the team that has to go back-to-back, in this case Menchville, are they going to be under some type of disadvantage? Or, like the Heritage Hurricanes, who we saw compete in 2 matches back-to-back, are they going to use that for fuel and come out even tougher in the second match?
They're starting off at 126, Tony White.
That's right. Yeah, this is Dakota Daniels for Denby. And look, this is the finals for Monday. They had a JV tournament. This was the same 2 fellows that wrestled against each other in the finals.
So they know each other pretty well.
Oh, absolutely.
That does help, Nate, with familiarity.
It does. It can breed contempt, but it can also breed respect, for your rival out there. And Dakota Daniels, who we saw in the first matchup against Heritage, he looked really good. In terms of all the Denby wrestlers out there, he was one of the ones that really stood out to me. What do you think makes him such a good competitor out there, Tony?
Well, I think some guys are bred for this sport. I mean, competitors from the day they're born, and this guy seems to be competitive and seems to be a good athlete. And you put that together with Coach Furman's technique and the Denby technique that they're showing out there with Coach Moeller, you got something special.
Final few seconds. Randall Stowe still officiating solo. Got to give him a lot of credit. And you would think now, Tony, that both these teams have wrestled a few times already. These matches might go by a little bit quicker, based on maybe fatigue or just or a little bit of an edge or that type thing.
Well, they could go by quicker for sure, or in fact, because they're tired, they might slow that pace right on down. It could really go either way.
Nate, your thoughts?
I think it's going to be interesting because both teams have wrestled, like you said, and we're going to see, do we see one team come out here and maybe take some risks? Because much like anything in life, Tony, if you take a big risk, it can also have a big reward to it. But if you get a little too over-aggressive, you might get caught. So it's a matter of kind of weighing those 2 things out.
Oh, absolutely.
1:20 left, no score. We've done a few matches over the years involving Denby and Gloucester and Menchville, Warwick, and now, of course, 3 tonight. Heritage, Menchville, and Denby, respectively. Menchville's the home designated team. Very methodical right here. Definitely not in a rush.
Yeah, neither guy wants to make that critical mistake, and I think also they want to establish the tone, set the tone for their respective teams.
Get that tempo early, like we've said. Not the most aggressive match, but it is what it is.
And I think, right now you're seeing just kind of that human game of chess, as we said all night, guys, that's that strategy that you have to apply in this. It's not just who's bigger, faster, stronger, but a lot of times it's who can set their opponent up to kind of fall into their trap.
Final few seconds. Fletcher Hayes for Menchville. Like Tony said, they're familiar with each other. We'll see what Randall Stowe has to say. 2-minute periods. Menchville, the home team, of course, respectively. Greg Picaveras, Nate Milton, Tony White, glad you're with us right here. Menchville getting on the ground. Nate, you can see where fatigue makes cowards of us all here.
It can.
The kid's almost happy to be on the ground right now.
Fatigue can make you a coward, but it can also reveal something about your character. And I think, going back to the conversation we were having in the last match, I like this strategy right here from Coach Furman. Or now they switched it. He was in bottom position. Now they're both standing in neutral. In terms of that, do you think that they're going for the takedown points? Is that the strategy there, Tony?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tony, you said you like the total domination, but 3 periods can happen as well, and that's 3. It's like a chess match, 3 grueling periods.
Oh yeah, well,
and not one's like each other.
You're right, and there's some of the best that the fans love to watch is going at it, 3 grueling periods, and if you notice the scores back and forth.
There's Denby working on the pin.
No overall score yet.
Right there, Menchville just reverses right out of it.
Menchville being proactive here. Fletcher Hayes at the 126 mark.
Wow.
Both going one on top of the other. Now Denby trying to get a lay of the land there. Hayes trying to use his hands and his knees both. Little UFC there almost.
We're seeing moves, counter moves, and counter moves to the counter moves. This is a
little UFC move there, Tony White.
Great action.
That was nice.
You saw it too.
Great action by both guys here in this opening match.
Final 40 seconds. Trying to do a pin down here. A bit of a body slam there.
Big move by the Monarchs.
Hayes on top. Now Denby's back on. Final 15 seconds. Great close-ups by our camera crew. And we'll see what Randall Stowe has to say. He gets the last call, the official.
Wow.
We saw what happened during the Heritage Menchville, where it really wasn't decided on the mat.
Yeah. Now for the folks at home, Tony, in terms of scoring, is this almost something like boxing where a lot of times the guy who's more aggressive and busier, that fighter will oftentimes get the decision?
It could be.
Is there some acting involved, Tony?
I don't think there's too much, but I'll tell you, you have to be aggressive, but it's a controlled aggression, and that's what you use to pull off your technique, and that's what just happened with Denby, Dakota Daniels.
That was a very close match right there.
That was wonderful.
Good start to the proceedings in this third match.
And it goes to Denby. We got Nathan Swanson now for Menchville, 132. 4-0 in favor of Denby on that. Hey, they'll take any point they can.
They will. Again, like Tony was saying earlier, it doesn't matter how you win. Of course, you want to dominate, but winning ugly is just as good as winning pretty sometimes, as long as, that first part, the winning, that's the important part.
Hey, it all looks good on paper.
4-0 Denby. We're Nathan Swanson, 132 for Menchville Wrestling now.
And now we're seeing just the aggressiveness right now for the Denby Patriots. And Tony, looking at both of these teams, what do you think are some of the strengths and weaknesses for both Menchville and Denby?
Well, I think the strength is they're both aggressive. They seem to be in fairly good shape, as seen just a minute ago, going those 3 grueling rounds. And some of the weaknesses might just simply be the inexperience of some of these first-year wrestlers. But I tell you what, that hadn't slowed them down any.
Now, is that a problem that you see kind of in general with the sport in terms of maybe the kids it not being as quote-unquote attractive as football or baseball or basketball, and just getting kids to come out and show up for the sport?
Oh, absolutely. I think that if you think about it, on every corner there is a baseball field, there is a football field, and there is a basketball court. Mm-hmm. And but the opportunities to wrestle, especially here on the peninsula, are limited. So quite honestly, these guys don't even start this sport until 8th or 9th grade.
And hopefully this broadcast will help get some exposure out.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and not to mention you don't have to worry about the weather. It's always indoors for the most part. It is an Olympic sport.
Yep.
It is.
And it's a traditional sport. In my mother's country in Greece, it was really big at one time. And
it's the oldest sport.
We talk about the Greco-Roman wrestling as well.
Yeah.
And, of course, we all grew up watching, you know, like it was. Greg Valentine, Johnny Valentine, Ric Flair, all those guys. And one thing, too, and you can attest to that, Johnny Valentine was a true wrestler.
Yeah, right. Well, and
Paul Jones and so forth.
Many of those guys.
Yeah, Blackjack Mulligan.
Yeah.
Igor even. I'm not sure about Andre the Giant. He was more of a body slammer.
Hey, he was just big.
Well,
yes.
And like we were talking about earlier, you know, Kurt Angle, you know, an Olympic medalist for America. You know, he's maybe the best to make that kind of transition. And it goes to show you that while professional wrestling is different from amateur wrestling, you can use amateur wrestling as a vehicle to go to school, to get an education, to, you know, pursue MMA, to pursue pro wrestling. It's not just a be-all and end-all. It can open up, you know, a kid's opportunities.
And Iowa's had a great wrestling program over the years.
Oh, my gracious, yes, absolutely.
The Big Ten.
And now Virginia Tech. It's right up there at the top.
Glad to see it. We keep up with it. We're glad we're showcasing it on TV.
Oh, me too.
We'll have you on Sports Highlights in February.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I can't wait. This kid right here was also at that JV tournament, and let me tell you, he was a tough cookie. He's young.
We'll talk about the JV tournaments. What are your thoughts about those? They help getting toward varsity, too. Sometimes they do both.
Let me tell you, John Wright, the coach over at Woodside, also a brand-new coach to the Peninsula District. He is really lighting some fire up there and getting people excited. And he's the one that was behind that JV tournament. And Newport News supported it. They paid for the referees, which is a big help. And next year they've honored to do 4 more. So,
nice.
So we're really excited about it. It was a great tournament.
All right, 10-0 now in favor of Denby. And this kid a little bit in tears. He's a little hurt. And that's just the reality, folks. I mean, these kids are kids. And this is a very physical sport, Tony. There's no helmet. There's no shoulder pads. And there's no knee pads out here. And there's no neck brace either. It is what it is. This is transparent as a physical sport next to boxing as there is, and then the UFC.
Yeah,
and they're seeing it because injuries happen out here.
Oh, yeah.
Neck pain. I mean, people have arthritis at every age.
That's true.
And it goes to show you why stretching is important, because a lot of times it's not even so much about how you treat an injury, it's can you prevent it before it even happens.
Yeah, that's right.
This is Anthony Sales out here from Menchville, 138. I really like Anthony's enthusiasm and energy. He is so proactive that he looks like he's just winning even when he's just getting out there.
Well, I was talking to Rob Furman today, and he said that he jokingly calls himself Coach Sales.
I mean, he's good.
And I think, again, half of the battle is the preparation, both mentally and physically, before you even step out there. And if you've got a kid who can almost act as a second pair of eyes out there, it just brings so much more poise to your team.
And it's 10-6 now. Menchville on the board. Explain when they take the stuff off their ankles there.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the guys with that, Tony. What's that all about?
Okay, so one
Support.
Sure. So one team is home, and that's the green team, and then one team is away, that's the red team, and basically that helps the referee. If you notice, the referee has matching armbands. So whoever scores, that's the band he holds up.
Nate thought he was in the Christmas
I was
spirit.
going to say, I mean, I saw the armbands and I saw the beard. I didn't want to make any assumptions. I just, felt that he was still in the holiday spirit, folks.
All right, we got Nathaniel Jones out here at 145 for Menchville. Thanks to our buddy Jackson Erb, Jr. at Menchville.
Jackson will come back stronger than ever next season. We're looking forward to seeing this young man get out there and compete with his fellow Monarchs out there.
Menchville's had some great alumni like Billy Wright, Janice Matthews, and, of course, we also want to say, our condolences to the late, great David Pope. We mentioned him during football. This is where he excelled on this floor right here.
Yeah.
David Pope, probably the best basketball player ever to play for Menchville, on this floor with David Hagan, who played for Coach Pop Pitts, on this floor. He passed away. We acknowledge him during football. I want to mention him again tonight. Him and David Hagan, the two best, bar none, Newport News basketball players that Menchville High School's ever had.
Yeah, definitely.
Pope played for the NBA, too.
Condolences
He played for Norfolk State as well.
To the Pope family. And, again, you talk about the legacy and the tradition here at Menchville. It's almost like homecoming, coming back here and seeing people like Coach Forbes or Coach Henderson and just, remember some of the names when you talk about a David Macklin or a Robert Hunt or an Al Toon before that, or even in terms of wrestling. We talked about Nick White earlier, just some of the great names. Danielle Dawson, Chilois Lyas, who
Rodney
played
Womble
on this basketball court out here.
So many athletes, but, it starts with football, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, football's always going to be, the king of sports. We see it in the NFL.
And Tony's saying, why don't y'all do 6 wrestling matches next year?
Yeah.
So Tony's
really.
saying, no more football. That's it. 6 wrestling matches, Tony.
Hey, we got 10 teams.
Right.
We can roll with this stuff.
Tony's already preparing for the Virginia Duels now. It just ended basically a few weeks ago. All right, anyway, let's do a lay of the land here, 10-6. We'll see what Randall Stowe says. Got to give Randall a lot of credit, Tony. I mean, he's no spring chicken either.
He's been around a while.
Yes.
He's very seasoned.
I was going to say, what you're saying is he's got a lot of experience. That's what you're saying.
Hey, we've had him on Sports Highlights before.
Sure.
Shu over at the Apprentice School.
Oh, yeah.
He's retiring after. He's been part of wrestling since the 70s.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, he was Rocky Trudgeon's assistant at Lafayette when I wrestled at high school at Warwick.
Right, and he still has that same enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever retire as a wrestling coach, basically?
No, I don't think so.
He'll still be involved in it, right?
Well, if you notice, quite honestly, you look around here and you see some old names. Look, that's Rick Richardson over there.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a kid in the program, but he wrestled here. He was a stud, and look, he's coming around watching wrestling.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a testimony to Rob Furman and what the job he's doing here. And I tell you, it's also a brotherhood.
Yep. And it was funny because I had a chance to talk to Coach Pearson during the break, and then we both kind of walked up at the same time. He's like, "Is everybody showing up tonight?" And it is. It's the type of thing where once you've gone through that, once you've gone through the training, whether you're talking about being a coach or a competitor out there, it is kind of a fraternity.
That's right.
And these bodies are maneuvered more than a Rubik's Cube. I mean, really, it's a lot. If you kids don't know what that is, just go online and look at it.
Yeah, I don't know if the millennials out there will remember the Rubik's. Maybe there's a Rubik's Cube app that they can download, Greg.
10-6 in favor of Denby. Very close. This is the second dual match for both tonight. Heritage is taking on Denby. Heritage is taking on Menchville. Now Denby and Menchville. Glad you're with us right here on Cox Cable 47-517. Sports highlights on NNPS TV. Live school board meetings, Fusion Fitness, Sports Scene on 1650 on Wednesdays 12 to 1. Our live school board meetings are the best. And, of course, city council meetings aren't too bad either, since Ray and I got on there.
I tell
Paul
you,
Cummings.
academics, athletics, activities. We bring you the best here on NNPS TV and NNPSTV.com. Want to send a shout-out to our men and women in uniform watching this all around the globe. We appreciate your service and your sacrifice, and we're glad we could bring you this exciting action here this week.
On YouTube as well.
Yep.
All right, 10-6. We'll see what Randall Stowe has to say. I think Randall Stowe needs to be the MVP tonight.
Hey, we talk about stamina. It accounts for the officials too. You know, they got to have stamina and be in good condition to be out here all night as well.
Well, I tell you what, he was there all day at that JV tournament from the very morning to the end.
A lot of these are part-time jobs, too. They're not their full-time jobs by none.
Oh, no.
They're not exactly building a house in Kingsmill off the salary.
Again, it goes to what we were talking about with the coaches and the people that are out here tonight. It's the love of the sport. And I don't think anybody would spend as much time and dedicate as much of their talent to something like this if they didn't have the passion for it, and it comes through.
Oh, you're right. And I think if you look closely, you might be able to see Coach Selinsky slide in here every now and then.
I'll tell you, that is a name that brings up a lot of memories from back in the 90s for me, particularly with Coach Selinsky.
He coached in the 80s, too.
In the 70s.
Yeah. So many great coaches here over the years. Coach Nuttycombe
Yep.
in football. Coach Pitts
Coach
in
Jacobs.
basketball.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Coach
Coach
Jacob.
Jacob, yep. Coach Jacob was the last coach for Menchville that took Menchville to a postseason.
Yep.
Way back in '93.
I still remember that game like it was yesterday. I was on JV at the time. And
Nate, you played more sports than Jesse Owens have.
I didn't
But
say
you have no proof of
I was
any
gonna
of
say,
it.
I didn't say I excelled at these sports. But I did participate in all of these sports back before we gave out
Nate's
participation
the Bo Jackson of
trophies.
telecom. Bo Jackson of telecom.
Yes, the Bo Jackson. Hey, football, baseball, wrestling. It's too short for basketball, but other than that, track and field. Coach Mollenhauer, shout out to Coach Molly.
You don't want to get too comfortable in that chair for the coaching staff at Denby. All right, it's 10-6, 41 seconds. Nathaniel Jones at 145 for Menchville.
Both guys out there working really hard to establish position. And, again, it's you see that these guys are working hard, but they're not panicking. They're not out there forcing things. It's a lot of what is successful out there is the mental game and, you know, maneuvering slowly but surely into the right position.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you see Kevin Decker here going for a fall. I believe if he doesn't pin him, the match is over.
Decker versus Jones. Denby versus Menchville. Denby on top. Great sportsmanship. We'll see what the final result will be. By Randall Stowe, respectively, here at Menchville High School, on the mat at Menchville High School. They take off their supports. Denby wins it.
All right.
So the visitor's still ahead.
Yeah.
Even though these schools are separated by Lucas Creek Road, still tough to. It's tough to win on the road, Nathaniel.
And again, you talk about rivalry. It's Menchville Denby. Like, it doesn't matter if you're talking about football, basketball, track and field, wrestling. It doesn't matter if you're talking about, you know, a game of tic-tac-toe. If it's Menchville and Denby, you want to go out there and beat the other team. So this is a high-stakes matchup for both teams.
Even when it's Ferguson and Menchville or Denby back in the day.
That name sounds familiar, Greg. Rings a bell.
15-6. Denby, a 9-point lead right now. Kid walking by in pretty much some pain there, you know. It's like, where's the jacuzzi when you need it,
I'm
Tony
telling
White? Tony, you don't go out and do demonstrations anymore, do you, yourself? You don't wrestle that much anymore. You still get on the mat.
I
if
mean,
you had to.
I know
You're not that old, Tony.
Hey, look, round is a shape.
Yes, exactly.
So you're always in shape.
So, look, when you're out there rolling around, it works really good.
You and Nick still wrestle sometimes.
We do every once in a while.
Back in the day, y'all did a lot, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Y'all did all the time. Even in the backyard sometimes.
Or the front yard.
Yeah, or in the house. All right, it's 15-6, 1:30 left. We got Brendan Callan, and he is at the 152 weight for Menchville, respectively. In the purple, Menchville, Denby in the blue, red, and white.
You see the
Greg Pickaveris, Nate Milton, Tony White with us, respectively. Our entire NNPSTV.com crew, led by Ray Price. We'll get to that in just a few moments. It'll be over before you know it. It's
I
going
know
by pretty quick.
These matches have breezed by pretty fast. And I wanted to make sure we asked you about this, Tony, before we got out of here this evening, though, one of these stigmas I think that still exists, unfortunately, with the sport of wrestling is that of the reckless weight cutting. And, some of the steps that people did in the past, to lose weight, that wasn't the most safe way to do it. In terms of now, the kind of the way things are done now for the kids, do you see a big difference between how the kids train now and how they cut weight now as opposed to maybe back when I was wrestling or when you were wrestling?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not even the same world. It's, way back in the day, only because no one knew better.
Right.
It was looked at as in today's terms as very reckless.
Or taboo. We talked about it.
It's kind of like the concussion deal in the NFL. We didn't have the science that we do now.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Bruce Scott was coaching at Ferguson, back in the day when Bethel won state championships, they were spitting in class.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Well,
it is
Just
what it
walk
is.
around eating ice chips all day.
It came down to losing that fluids because what they were concerned about was meeting their weight for their match that night.
yeah, absolutely.
Not as much for practice, but more for the match, correct?
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've learned, not just, the science behind it, when your body is hydrated, you can perform better.
Right.
And
nourished as well.
Oh, absolutely. But today's world, these guys can go run around, and because they are so hydrated, in 15, 20 minutes, they can lose a pound.
Yeah.
And
I wish I could.
I got a few of them. I'd lose.
Yeah.
But anyway, bottom line is, back then when we were doing it, to lose 1 pound took forever because you had no water in your system.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really think that the way they do it today is not only smarter, safer, it's better for the athletes. I really, really appreciate this weight control program.
Right.
It makes it difficult as a coach to keep up with. It's very tough.
Yeah.
Especially with young kids that decide to give in to the local ho-ho or piece of candy and throws their metabolism all off.
Right.
Or in my case, licorice or peanut butter cups.
Piece of pizza. Temptation is all around.
That's right. But in the end, this is a much better program.
We're still a ways away from Nate's report card and, of course, his famous song. But we will get to the crew list in just a few moments in the next match.
Do I get paid for each song tonight?
Yes.
Is that the way we're working things out tonight?
Paid one big check, Nate. We're not volunteers, and you know it. But you're a good man, Nathaniel, to sing that song for us.
That's a great name, as we've seen tonight from Menchville. That Nathaniel Nate, that carries a lot of respectability.
Now, look, this is a little wrestling here, Tony. This is a little pro wrestling move right here.
Ooh.
Wow.
Using the neck right there is, that's the thing. The neck is the most vulnerable part of the body, is the neck. And in my opinion, the Denby player took advantage of the neck and used his weight and his back on the neck, too, and his arms.
Leverage is so
Yes.
important, when you talk about wrestling. And yes, like Tony mentioned earlier, you can work out the neck, you can stretch the neck, but at the end of the day, there's only been so much power you can generate from your neck. And so when you got a guy laying on top of you, you're not going to be able to pivot out of that, unless you got a really, really strong core. And so I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Denby tonight. Now you see the coach right there, but Denby, to me, it's yes, you can say it's not that far, but going on the road, being in front of the TV cameras, having to sit and wait while they had to wait for the Heritage match to take place.
Right.
Denby's come out really focused tonight.
And it's 21-12. They got the 9-point advantage here on Telecom on 47, 517, Cox 47, and then PSTV.com. A lot of our events are showcased on YouTube as well, and Twitter. Nate and I tweet out all of our sporting events.
Yes.
Nate and I love Twitter. Nate and I always rank Twitter 1, Facebook 2, YouTube is 3.
Twitter is a great way to not only get your point across, but also to interact with
live too.
Interact with athletes and singers, and who knows, these days you might even be able to talk to a president. This has been a
All
fun
right, another
night,
Nathaniel Lyon for Menchville, 170. Still not quite at Nate's weight, but anyway.
We got a couple classes to go before you get to my weight.
You and I would be the heavyweight.
I don't know. I don't even know. We might have to cut weight to get to heavyweight.
Yeah. Tony, how about like an alumni wrestling? Or just like Nate and I want to wrestle before one of y'all's matches just to add some crowd enthusiasm. You think we could do that maybe next year?
Oh, I know you can.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you
We
can.
would love to do that. Nate and I can wrestle before one of your wrestling matches next year. You and I will organize it. And Nate
Absolutely.
and I will come out there and we will wrestle
As
each
long
other.
as you get it on tape.
Yeah,
that's cool,
There
yeah.
you go. Maybe
Well,
we
look,
get
now every kid's got a live phone. They can.
Oh, that's true.
But it's not broadcast quality necessarily, but it's still okay.
we get Antonio Brown to come out here and film it for
Yes.
us.
There you go.
And Mike Tomlin can approve it.
Yes.
Ooh, right in the eye. You got to watch your eyes sometimes too. Tony, goggles ever a factor? Should you wear goggles, or is that a weapon almost?
Oh, no. I mean, they make some.
We're gonna watch it again, folks, on an instant replay.
Okay. You
Yep,
see,
you got hit in the face.
Yeah,
Yep.
they just look like the guys were just going to lock up, and when you got sweat out there and you've been out there working
that
hard.
Was that was just a loose body reaction.
Certainly inadvertent.
Inadvertent, didn't mean it. But again, like I've said countless times, it's a very physical sport.
And you know what? Getting popped in the bridge of the nose, it could either make you a little bit more timid, or it could fire you up. And Menchville
Wake you up a little
looks
bit.
fired up now.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
A little caffeine twist. 21-12, Denby in the blue. And Randall Stowe is such an accomplished referee, he's not going to let it get out of hand.
Very, very, very good matches tonight that we've seen from Denby. What's impressed you the most with Denby? Because just from a layman's point of view, Tony, I've been really impressed by the way Denby has gone out here and really pressed the issue and been aggressive out there on the mat.
Hey, Coach Moyler and Coach Hill, they're neither one of them are head coach. They're co-head coaches. And let me tell you, they've been there about 5 years now, and they have made all the difference. They recruit well. They obviously retain their wrestlers.
You're a head coach solo, though, correct?
It just so happens
Rule number
I am.
one, Tony's always right. Rule number two, look at rule number one. I guess Nick is your assistant pretty much, huh?
Well, he was for years. I tell you, but unfortunately, my wife she wouldn't go for that. I would say that they've done a good job of technique, of getting these guys in shape, and recruiting and retention.
Yeah, and fundamentals too.
Oh, absolutely.
27-12, Denby a 15-point lead. It is Denby and Menchville respectively on our airwaves. And of course, I want to take this time to acknowledge our crew for the third time tonight. The executive producer in attendance with her son, Michelle Price. The producer since 1992, Ray Price. The director, Bill Barlow, with us since 1993. In the truck, doing a splendid job for all of our sporting events. Our entire crew, Greg Lesko, our wonderful engineer, who's revitalized our headsets since 2014 when others could never do it. But Greg did it, the best engineer we've had in a long, long time. Yes, Greg is awesome. And of course, Carl Daniels, great 1-2 punch with Ray Price. And our great students who Nate will take care of as we speak.
All right, as you see Denby working for the pinfall. Wow.
James Culver out there for Menchville. Nate, go ahead.
All right, and again,
33-12, Denby.
To 12. Denby being aggressive. But let's talk about a group of kids who are not aggressive, and I mean that in the best way, because they are our great crew here tonight. Jose Sullivan, Gabe Odachowski, Deion Davis, Summer Ely, Muriel Gamble, Eleanor Stuck, DC Darren Cooper, Cameron Dorsey. Great job by our crew here tonight. Of course, could not forget Dwayne Peterson.
And we get close to our final stretches here, too. Nate, good enough to give us our report card. Now it's 39-12. It's very convincingly.
Yeah.
The odds are Denby's probably going to win. It's not a final yet. You even see some people doing some jumping jacks out here. She says, I don't want to be on TV. Anyway, Nate, your report card, first of all, for Denby.
I have been really impressed by Denby tonight. Now they came out and took care of Heritage in the first match, and then to come out and see them pretty much do the same thing to Menchville. and be very aggressive and really impose their will on a Menchville team that, I think has good things in its future. But right now, in the here and now, Denby has shown that they are, at least tonight, the class of the 3 programs that we've seen. So I'm going to go ahead and give Denby the first A of the evening. Denby gets an A from me, Greg.
Menchville
got
12 at home.
Got 12 at home, and they lost in the second match of the night to Heritage, 37-36. I gave them a B in that loss to Heritage. And you know what? I'm looking at them right now, and I don't know if they're a little bit fatigued from what was a grueling series against Heritage, but I think they've come out here, they fought, they worked hard, it just hadn't gone their way. Denby's just been a little bit more aggressive and been getting to their spots. And so for Menchville, you know what? I'm going to give them a B for this one too. So B overall for Menchville tonight. I'll give a B to Heritage because they had a C in the first match and a B in the second, so B for Heritage. And an A to Denby, who's come out and gone 2-0 against 2 very game squads.
Denby's beating Heritage. Heritage is beating Menchville. And Denby right now all over Menchville, 39-12 with 40 seconds left in these periods. The rules have changed a lot over the years, and they've been pretty much the same. What's been the biggest rule changes, and what have been the biggest surprises you've seen in high school wrestling this year?
Well, the weight change, the weight program is probably the biggest change I've seen in wrestling. Most all the scoring and all the major rules are somewhat the same. As far as surprises this year, I tell you what, the surprise is Peninsula District have a full roster across the board, and they're, as you can see, competitive.
Yeah.
Right.
For instance, Menchville last year, there's not one person that was on Menchville's team last year. This is a brand new team.
And a nice coach in Coach Furman.
You got to give a lot of credit to Coach. Basically, building your program up from scratch.
39-18 Denby. It's Derek Simmons from Menchville, known as Biscuit, at 285.
And you know what? Your Biscuit at 285, he's a big boy, obviously, but he's pretty light on his feet from what I've seen tonight.
Yeah.
He's not a lumbering 285.
Menchville needs that enthusiasm for football with Biscuit's got. They need 11 Biscuits.
I'm telling you, where is the football coach you need him? Because he needs to be playing on somebody's defensive line next year.
Hey, look, Tony, War can't laugh either. They made the postseason with a losing record, too.
Hey,
Another reason why we should do all wrestling next year, right, Tony?
I tell you what, I was proud of them.
Menchville coaches on their feet. Coach Furman and company.
That's one thing I noticed when I, back in the day in Menchville, there was such a big crossover between the football players and the wrestlers because, for a lot of the guys, it was something to do in the wintertime and it kept you competitive and it kept you in shape. Do you see that same crossover these days, Tony?
Unfortunately, I don't. I mean, I wish I did. I know Nick, he was out here playing football weighing 240 pounds and wrestling
coach is there. Coach Furman and company. I love the heavyweight. 285 is about as good as you can get. Very spirited, the crowd getting involved. And at Menchville High School, Sammy Price wrestled for Menchville.
Price wrestled for Menchville, yep.
I played tennis. Nate said he claimed to play every sport in the district.
And let me tell you, Greg, I was the best water polo player in the history of the peninsula. I just don't have footage of it right now.
That's like that Facebook fake news, right, Nate?
Well, you were talking about the coaches over there yelling. Chris Roberts, I mean, he's the offensive line coach here.
Yep.
And this is who he works with exclusively right here. There's the big boy, Biscuit.
And it's a special, I don't know if it's a skill set or if a mindset, Tony, when you talk about the heavyweights. Because a lot of times when you talk about somebody that big, particularly if they come from a football background, they're used to just kind of getting in there and bullying people over. And you just can't do that when you're out there on the mat because you can run up against a guy that's just as big as you but has skill, and that's a big challenge.
Well, and I tell you another thing. This is one of the reasons that football coaches ought to be looking at this stuff because in wrestling you're going to develop those good hands, those quick feet,
especially for offensive
maneuverability.
and defensive linemen out here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You talk about football, a lot of the best athletes have been track and field athletes as well as wrestlers. That's a great point. Track for the running backs and the speed.
Tell you, how many quarterbacks could use? We've seen during the playoffs here. How many quarterbacks could use somebody with size and good hands and leverage and quickness that we see out here on the mat, protecting their blind side on Sundays. So,
Pepper Johnson, who played for Ohio State, was a great linebacker that could do a lot what Biscuit does. He could move very gently with his feet, very agile.
You know, we've got a thing in the weight room. It's 750 NFL football players who wrestled.
Wow.
That's great.
I mean,
including The Rock, too. Now, he wasn't as good as Ray Lewis was that played for Miami.
Ray Lewis was a wrestler.
Yeah.
It's not
can
a
see that,
surprise.
too.
You can see with that intensity and you know, the way he played.
We're at Menchville High School in Newport News. Greg Pickaveris, Nate Milton, Tony White. I want to thank Sonny Durr for joining us during the Heritage Denby match.
You got to give credit to Denby. You know, he's not as big as Biscuit, but he's got the technique down. And I think, you know, when you can combine size with speed and with skill, you know, it'll beat out size and strength any day in my opinion.
What you saw at Denby there was kind of like a silent assassin there. Didn't show a lot of emotion, but he got the final pin. So 45-18. All right, take a look at the agile stuff right here. Now watch the Denby guy.
Wow.
It looked like he was being pinned down there, and all of a sudden he did a reversal of fortune. Wow. Coming up right around here, it's almost like a snake in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
He got him.
You can see, Tony, he just kind of worked his way up to get into position. The great job by the young man on that pin.
Oh, yeah, used what they call a crackdown on the single.
Yeah, 51-18.
Then he just crawled right up on top.
Great video work by our crew.
It's like a cat and mouse or a spider and a fly. Once you got him, it's all over.
We go from 285 now, Tony White, to Zach Gonzalez at 113.
So a contrast of styles.
He's another newcomer, of course, Tony White.
Oh, yeah, this kid
Tony,
is.
has anybody ever spelled your name wrong before?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Except maybe T-O-N-I, maybe, yeah.
Everybody ask.
Yeah. All right, we got Zach Gonzalez here for Menchville, but you know some of the shorter guys are still quick on their feet.
Yeah,
and they're lower to the altitude there as well.
And again, you know, you're talking about just some of these great athletes here at Menchville. Don't want to forget to mention Caitlin Elliott, who the sophomore, second-year wrestler, who is new to Menchville this year from Warwick, Tony.
That's right. We were lucky enough to have her last year as a freshman. And, man, I tell you what, I know it sounds crazy, but she was beating up on those kids weighing about 113, 120 pounds in our room.
But is it fair, though, Tony? Is it really fair, or
is it fair to the guys to get beat?
Well, you know, they don't live that down. But hey, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
That's like you wake up in the middle of the night. What's wrong? Too much information.
Well, and then I think, you know, when you talk about Caitlin, you talk about not only being persevering on the mat, but also off the mat, some of the things that has happened to her in her life and just being able to be resilient. It speaks well to her character, Tony.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love her spirit and her attitude as well.
Well, yeah, she's had to overcome a lot. And
what does it take to get her out there, Tony?
You know what it took? It took me walking down the hall and her coming up to me saying, "Can girls wrestle?" I said, "Sure can."
Wow.
That's all it took.
Wow.
At work.
At Warwick.
But why at Menchville now?
I called up Rob Furman and he said, "I'm having a hard time getting a 120-pounder." I said, "I know where the one's walking around your hallway right now." and he told me, "I have her in my math class. I'll sign her today."
It's a great job here as we see great action here, and again, great credit. Even though Menchville is down, you got to give credit to Coach Furman here for basically building this team from scratch.
Tell us this young lady again. Give her proper credit.
Yeah, so
this is Caitlin Elliott at 120.
Yeah, Caitlin Elliott. And look, you know, a year and a half ago, her mom passed, and her birthday's coming up this weekend. And I tell you what, she puts those shoes on every day and says, "I'm doing it for my mom."
Good for her. Good for her. Folks, what you're seeing is history on NNPS TV right now. In all the years we've been doing sports, we've never seen this. You will not see this in football. You won't see it in basketball.
Let's say occasionally you might see a kicker.
You won't see it in
football.
baseball. You won't see it in any sport. But right now you're seeing it in this.
Right.
This is history.
Yes. I mean,
This is mano a mano.
Peninsula District, this is what we do here in Newport News, NNPSTV.com. Like you said, you might see a female kicker every now and then, but you won't see her get on the ground with the guys. And this is what the sport of wrestling brings to the people, Greg. It's why it's different than any other sport out there. And like Tony was speaking to, you see not only the athletic abilities right there, but also the courage of her convictions out there on the mat.
Greg Lesko, the comedian. See Greg at the local comedy club. Greg, love these headsets, my friend. 3 years and counting, baby. Keep it up. All right, so the score is 57-18. Let's not lose focus, but you're seeing history on our airwaves tonight, folks. This is history. Caitlin Elliott at 120. And I would lay to say even Jackson Erb is always amazed by this as well. That this is a credit to the young girls out there that believe they can do anything. It's not going to be easy because he's physically stronger than her, but she's trying.
Well, that brings up the question, Tony, because obviously, with men and women, in general, most men are going to be stronger than a woman of, equal size. But what advantages and skills does Caitlin have that she can use maybe that a guy of comparable size wouldn't have?
Well, she's flexible, and she's smart. And I'm not saying that guys aren't smart, but she's on top of things. She's a multi-athlete, and in softball and volleyball and
wrestling too,
and obviously wrestling. And look, I coached the all-girls team for 5 years in Georgia, and I'm here to tell you, girls, you know what they don't do? They don't ask why. If you say go run 5 miles, they go run 5 miles, and
they listen better, right?
They do.
Interesting.
They want
no attitudes either, right?
No attitude. They're looking to prove something.
Right.
Interesting.
It's almost like the old saying back when we were all kids. Tony, of course, you're older than all of us, but still, be seen and not heard almost.
Oh, yeah.
And she's a good testament of that.
Well, I tell you what, she is a tough cookie.
But she's being seen tonight on TV and the internet.
Well, I tell you, she made it through some real hard practices. I wasn't sure she was going to do it, but she did it.
It was, she's not as strong as this kid wrestling out here.
Oh, no, this kid's tough.
But her heart is just as strong.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
Well, it takes some guts to get out there. And
we've never seen this on our airwaves, ever.
Yeah, I want to say
you will not see this in college, though. If you do, it'll be a miracle.
It'll be a rarity.
Yeah, you won't see this in professional wrestling either. Although there's some, Ronda Rousey would like to challenge a few in the UFC. But she's been very quiet lately.
Yeah, well, and I think that goes to what we were talking about earlier with MMA, where you can't just be good at one thing. And Ronda Rousey, obviously, excellent at judo. But it's going to take, the striking. It also takes the wrestling to have a well-rounded attack, and that's what, a lot of young guys and girls are seeing. If we want to make it in an MMA, then, we've got to get the basics, and one of those basic building blocks is wrestling.
That's absolutely right.
I like the way he's respecting her as well. He's not just,
Well, it'd be easy for him to come in and be
beating her up or whatever,
Yeah, it'd be easy to be overconfident
right.
and take her for granted. But, again, when you're out there on that mat, it doesn't matter. Man, woman, if you're big, tall, short, fat, skinny, if they're tough enough to make it to this point, you have to be aware and respectful of your opponent.
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you what, tides can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, we've seen that 57-18 currently. Coach Furman's still instructing Caitlin Elliott at 120. Still at it. 2 more minutes, folks, at it. We're in Newport News, Virginia at Menchville High School. You see all the school banners up. What do you think about all this redistricting and scheduling? I mean, you cannot tell Tony White, whether it's basketball, whether it's JV, varsity, girls, boys, and I think you talk about attendance, 99% of the public has no idea about any of the winter sports because football is somewhat organized because it's once a week. Right. The rest is about as random as you can get. And even the coaches don't even know sometimes. Ray and I had to figure it out. Took us an hour to look at was actually Warwick and Denby in basketball, one of the few Newport News matchups. You've seen it firsthand.
Oh, yeah. Well,
It's confusing to the parents, too.
Well, and we try to do a good job. One of the things that Newport News did this year is they tried to put all of the wrestling matches on Wednesday, Peninsula District matches. But it's wide open as far as what's happening on the weekends.
Or basketball, whatever.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Most people don't know whether you're home, away, playing on Wark Boulevard. It is confusing. Because back in the day, it was varsity girls, varsity boys, maybe the JV first. Now it's not like that anymore.
That's right.
They could be playing in Chesapeake. It is. Great sportsmanship by these two.
Yeah.
A lot of the women in attendance also cheering. Denby won, but great attitude by Caitlin Elliott at 120.
And again, you're not going to win them all, but you got to give credit to Caitlin for going out there and giving her all. But also, man, great effort tonight by the Denby Patriots, coming away with a big win.
And of course, Denby wins it 62-18. Nate, before we say bye to Tony, they beat your alma mater. Take it away, Nate.
I'm sorry, Coach Furman. But yes, once again, folks, for the last time tonight, in honor of the late, great Danny Don Meredith, we got to sing for the people, for the Menchville Monarchs. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night, the party's over. And tomorrow, and maybe next week, Menchville, we'll do the same old thing again.
Nate, you earned your check tonight, my friend.
That's sing for my supper.
All right, Tony White, I want to thank you for joining us, also for being a guest on the February edition of Sports Highlights, and for enlightening us about this wonderful sport. And I'm sure you were excited about us doing this tonight.
Oh, absolutely. It means so much, and it brings it to the public. And thank you for having me.
Great fun, great job by the crew in the truck. They are the true heroes, making the audio and video work for the public. And, of course, Nate and I bringing it to you with a lot of commentary and fun here at Nate's alma mater, Menchville High School, as well. So we have seen it already tonight that Denby beat Heritage, Heritage beat Menchville,